Welcome everybody to our latest session of the Restoration of Cariele. I believe we are on session 24 now. As usual, we'll do a quick recap of what occurred last week, and then we will get underway. So team, when we picked up last week, you may recall that you guys started off the session having been, just previously the session before, having defeated this woman who had infiltrated the castle and seemingly was attacking Cerilia and shouting out some clearly blasphemous and heretical type of statements about Cerilia. And the team had managed to defeat her and sort of bring her down. When we picked up last session, the team was deciding what exactly to do here. I believe it was Vin who checked her, realized that she was dead, and decided to bring her corpse up to the upper floors and kind of leave it just on the bed there, while the rest of the team, being a bit tired, decided to all get their rests in. With that underway, the team then slept decently through the night, knowing that they find themselves in a very chaotic area at this point, namely in the political landscape with all of these different factions and so forth. When the team woke up the next morning, there was no sign of this woman on the bed when Vin went to look for her. It seemed as though either somebody had taken her body or perhaps she wasn't actually dead. Vin wasn't necessarily trained in being able to detect exactly when someone is dead or alive, just badly hurt. So it's possible that she was alive and she left on her own free will. With that having occurred, and on the previous night, after the guards had rushed up and spoken to our player characters here, and Vin decided to allow one of them, who was named Arthur, who seemed to be a bit skeptical and questioning of matters, allowed him to come into the room and kind of scope things out and fill him in on what occurred. After all this occurred, the next day, eventually the team and getting preparations ready to go for the various petitioners who are arriving, as well as all of the activities for the free giveaway that was occurring outside on the gate, outside the steps essentially of the castle. The team then decided to eat some food and so forth as they're getting prepared. Vin called forth to bring Arthur before the group and essentially filled Arthur in on some of those details, namely that they believe the woman has fled, and to try to track her down. We had Blixel go to the kitchens to speak with this woman, Sybil Miss Splitter, who was known to be a friend of this woman, and there was some information gathered. Some people called this woman who had attacked in the night Minnie. Eventually Blixel learned that her actual name was Minerva, and he learned that from Sybil. And the conversation between Blixel and Sybil showed that Sybil was a pretty devout follower of Cariele, much as Minerva had shouted out as she was attacking. And it seemed as though Sybil wasn't believing anything that Blixel explained to her about Minerva perhaps being an attacker or an aggressor or anything along those lines. She seemed to very strongly believe that this was an issue on the side of the team, or perhaps just that there was confusion there and they had some information wrong and so forth. After leveraging Arthur's help and asking him to head over to the Hogshead Inn, where the team learned from Sybil that that is where Minerva stayed sometimes, but Minerva also stayed with Sybil sometimes. So sent Arthur over to the inn there to see what information he could find, sent him with a friend, another guardsman, and with the goal of apprehending Minerva and bringing her back to the castle for questioning. Arthur did indeed set off on that, as the team then got into the throne room and essentially prepared for the arrival of all of the private petitioners, private meeting requests. And the Lord Tannen slowly allowed some of these folks to come on in, and one after another the petitioners arrived and presented their case. In no particular order, the team had Yelmes Lamix, who was turned out to be a Triton, and explained that his people live in the bay that is known as Tailfirth, that the Rude River, which is along the northern border of Cariele, the river there runs into the Tailfirth, and he had explained that there had been a lot of dumping of pieces of wood that were not necessarily high enough quality to be used for anything else, or runoff, some just different garbage and things that all, byproducts of the industry of logging, and that a lot of that stuff had flown downriver and just kind of falls right into their homeland. And he was really hoping that he could get an agreement with the leader here in Cariele to stop the dumping, There was some different suggestions with Tavern, I believe it was, suggesting creating a net or a capture mechanism of some kind and put that in the river so any of that kind of stuff would get caught, and then take that stuff and perhaps recycle it or find other uses for it, and that way it wouldn't flow downstream. Yelmy seemed to be particularly happy with this, as though the team was going to try to make some effort. Perhaps you got the impression that he was expecting to simply be turned away without any consideration. He also let the group know that among his people, he's somewhat of a reader of signs. So when weird occurrences happen or people have strange dreams, he is able to interpret those dreams according to him and what they mean. And this brought up the odd event that Serena had discovered in the castle that morning, when a strange yellow bird arrived with these beady red eyes and just sort of landed on the windowsill looking at her. The group was too transfixed in seeing this bird and decided to, they were kind of talking with one another, deciding should they attack this bird, should they just watch and see what it does. But after kind of calling out to Blixel, and then Blixel making his way over, just try to see what was going on, this seemed to be a bit too much attention for the bird, and it flew away. Once these events were relayed to Yelmes, he explained that this is a sign that the individual person who saw this first, they're not living up to their creative spark, you might say, as though a true purpose is out there yet to be fulfilled. And unfortunately, that didn't tell Serena exactly what she wanted to know, but definitely gave her some things to think about. After Yelmes departed, letting the team know that he would still be in town for another week or so, there was some other private meeting request petitioners here. We had Boren Hall, who was the young man who was trying to purchase any prisoners in the prisons around Cariele, and particularly in Carolinium. The team listened to him and were able to determine, after questioning him a bit, that he had an existing deal with Entir Gladno, the former Count of Cariele, and was able, he said there was a special arrangement there where he was essentially acting as the middleman, selling these prisoners to a third party. The team decided that this sounded too much like slavery for their taste and decided they did not want to partake in this, and essentially sent Boren on his way. Team also met with Edmund Kaskbau, who was a doctor, and he was explaining how there is a terrible plague currently spreading in the slums of Carolinian. He said that this illness was pretty bad and really sapped the strength of the people that had it, and it would spread very easily. The team had previously been cautioned that Kaspau was a bit of a worrywart, you might say, and seemed to blow everything out of proportion. So there was a conversation here with Vin speaking to the doctor and essentially saying, like, hey, we just want to make sure this is a legitimate thing and that you're not blowing this way out of proportion. We don't want you to have that kind of reputation. The doctor seemed to be a little bit taken aback by this and was a bit quiet when this was being presented to him, and essentially was just happy that the team decided to offer him some help, which was try to see if they could find a building to quarantine a lot of these sick people. That might involve paying the guild for the use of a large warehouse. It might involve calling in a favor from somewhere else. Still to be determined on the specifics there, but also that the team would look for some other doctors that would be able to help in this regard. Dr. Kaspau then left. Another individual you guys met with was Leo Roundtree. He was a bit of a shaky kind of guy, seemed to speak pretty quickly and maybe a bit fidgety. He indicated that he had the magical item that he was wanting to sell to the new regent of Cariele. He mentioned that this cloak, and he was able to show this to the team and allow at least one of you, I think it was Dian, to touch the cloak, and indicated that this cloak had the magical property to allow the person that wore it to transform into a hellhound, and said how powerful this would be to allow the wearer to be protected and be much more secure than without it. He asked 6,000 gold for it, but the team didn't seem to have a whole lot of interest in this deal, with some members of the team like Serena just wanting to be very cautious as to where this item ultimately went to. Who was the purchaser? Where would he sell it? That sort of thing. But the team did indeed turn Leo down, and he exited as well. You guys also met with Usk, who is the lizard folk hunter. He had previously indicated to the staff of Cariele that there were many rocks falling down from the Stone Crown Mountains into a swamp, and he said that he had heard a lot of loud voices. when you guys spoke with him, he was very direct and to the point, and essentially said he wanted you to lead an expedition up to the Stone Crown Mountains and kill all of the giants up there to prevent any kind of attack on his people down below. When questioned as to why to use these kind of resources, or why couldn't he and his people do this task sort of thing, he mentioned that his people, his tribe, was not strong enough to be able to kill the giants. But he also pointed out that if the giants do come down and kill all of his people, then they likely will just keep pushing forward and eventually be this team's problem, as the giants would be striking at the heartland of Cariele rather than just staying in the mountains. The team kind of vacillated on this back and forth as far as exactly what to do, but essentially tried to secure like an arrangement of almost like an alliance with this tribe to say, would the lizard folk help in upcoming wars and that sort of thing, but not a whole lot of specifics there. Us didn't seem to want to tie his people down to any agreements, and mentioned that even if he got you to speak with the chieftains change pretty frequently in his tribe, is the way he explained it. So any deal you made with one chieftain wouldn't necessarily hold in the next chieftain's reign of that tribe. So it didn't seem like it would made a whole lot of sense to do anything long term. But the team did tell us they would think about it and see what it is they could do. Us said he wasn't sticking around, he was heading back, but that if you wanted to speak to him, you could head down to the swamp and ask for him, and he would speak with you there. I believe that was all of the private petitioners you guys had to deal with. There's one other that is still on your list. Oh, and we quickly discussed John Serpentwind, who is a magician, and he had explained he came into possession of a treasure map, and it's actually for a underground ruins that is in northwestern Malavienne, and he's looking for a group to accompany him to those ruins and check them out. There is one other private petitioner you guys haven't met, and you know you still have several public petitioners to deal with as well. So I believe that is where we ended off. That's my recap. If I missed anything, folks, feel free to hop in and add any details.
I just have a couple of additional things I wanted to say about Usk when we talked to him. When we communicated about helping them out, we asked if, politically we could talk to their tribal leaders or anything like that, and he was very specific about how the leaders change fast and that, not everyone always agrees, and, sometimes there's drastic changes, so he couldn't really guarantee us that we'd be able to do anything similar to that. And then he also mentioned the word Fomorian in terms of the types of giants that he believes it is, and Celine had recognized that name and gave us a little bit of info about him.
Yes, indeed. Fomorian was a very specific type of giant that he referred to. And yes, you guys were able to determine after speaking with Celine that Fomorians are very dangerous, and in some regards, they are considered to be even more dangerous than frost giants. So, yep, good addition. Go ahead and take inspiration there, Vin. Anybody else? Okay, hearing nothing else, let's do one more mic check. How are we doing there, Blixel? Are you all set?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you. Woohoo!
Yeah, it's not using my snowball though, but it'll work. I'm gonna try to fix this up, but yeah, for now I'm through the webcam.
Fair enough. You sound loud and clear, so yeah, no worries on the quality. All right, appreciate that update. Let's go ahead and dish out everybody a card. So here it comes. Take a moment to review your cards as I am, in case anybody has any red cards for me to have at my disposal. If you have any questions on your cards, definitely let me know. And all right, it looks like we are good. So we left off in the throne room, so let's go ahead and get you guys back over there.
Adam, I got a new card I haven't seen played yet. That's a funny one.
Yes, yeah. Hopefully, some of the names of them are give you a little chuckle, but yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Alrighty, so team, we find ourselves back in the throne room. I believe you guys have just the one last private petitioner on the docket, and then you have several public petitioners that would like to speak with you as well. So as you guys have just spoken with John Serpentwind, he is still remaining here. We, again, really fast-tracked the details of this request last time, so if there's anything specific you would like to ask of Mr. Serpentwind, we can certainly dig into those details a bit more now.
Yeah, I have some questions I'd like to ask him, considering the interest our party took into potentially doing this quest. So I'll kick us off, I guess. Vin will look over at John after, let's just say like a slight discussion that everybody had about it, and he'll go, well, Mr. Serpentwind, do you mind telling me how you got a hold of this map?
It is something that I've been looking for quite some time. I'm a bit of a researcher, you might say. I look through old texts, old books, ledgers, those types of things, always in search of the next great search, the next great hunt, as it were.
And you found this map during your researching?
Not quite, but I found details that led me to another thing, which then ultimately led me to the map.
Well, if you understand that we're going to be going down with you, potentially, then we should probably have as much information as you have. What is it you're looking for exactly?
Well, it is supposed to be an orb of some types. The documents that I was able to find, when the text and the information is this old, you must understand there is always going to be a degree of uncertainty into the final quality of the item. But it is an orb said to harness magical capabilities and, in fact, allow individuals to expand, tapping into the power of the orb, which acts sort of as like, I suppose you might say, an amplifier.
I see. And with this amplifier, what do you plan to do?
Oh, nothing specific at the moment, but tell me that such a thing would not be quite useful.
Well, magical items like that don't have much use for me, considering I don't have access to any magic, but it would be beneficial to someone for sure, I could see that, but if we're going to travel with you, it sounds like you would like our help in acquiring this item yourself. But on the same hand, if we are just going as protection, what are we getting in return? Are you
Ah,
offering payment?
I am, in fact, in a roundabout way. You see, ruins such as this, well, they always contain various artifacts of different natures. So there might be money, there might be magical items, there might be just lost treasures that are culturally significant. You and your team that you bring along will be able to keep everything that we discover except for the orb.
And you understand that there's potential that nothing could be down there except your orb, right?
Yes, of course. Well, no. I mean, I suppose there is potential for anything, my lord, but I certainly would not suspect that. There is the potential that the orb is not there, though. I thought that is what you were going to say. Got a bit ahead of myself, I'm afraid. But if we don't find the orb, then I would expect an equal share of what we find below. But if we do find the orb, then everything else we find is yours. If for some reason we don't find anything besides the orb, then I'm sure we can make other arrangements at that time.
Well, those arrangements would need to be made beforehand, not at that time. You see, if we're going to send council members from our state along with you to assist you, then we would need to know that this would be beneficial to our province.
I see. Yeah, so you're thinking of sending your counselors. That's not something I'd considered. I thought perhaps you had a strike force or a team of some sort that handle these kind of things, but I would be grateful to escort the counselors into such an area, assuming they have the skills and so forth. As far as what you would get, I'm open to negotiations. I am not an incredibly wealthy man, but I do have some treasures at my disposal.
In terms of a strike force or anything similar, we have military and troops and whatnot, but adventurers, as you know, they tend to have their own plans, and they're not usually on anybody's coffers. And if they are, it's only for a short period of time to accomplish a certain goal. So in the meantime, we are adventurers ourselves, so anything that is similar to what you're offering that would come across the table, we would probably take upon ourselves to complete. Considering this one is unique in terms of the offer that you're extending, we may need to have further discussion on whether or not we'll participate. Considering mm, time that we would be away from receiving new petitioners and running our state, it would need to be a well-funded trip for us to assist you.
As I said, my lord, we can certainly discuss, but when you say well-funded, perhaps we should speak specifics here so I know that we're within the realm of agreement.
That sounds completely fair, Mr. Serpentwind. Anything that would not be beneficial to our treasury would be a waste of our time. So finding historical plates, for example, have no interest to us. We then have to sell them and hawk them off and then probably get shortchanged on the amount of gold we would get. You understand? You're
I
offering us to take home things we find in the sarcophagi or lying around disposed of from previous members. It sounds like at most we'd maybe walk around with a couple of hundred gold from that, and that just does not seem beneficial to me.
Well, the exact value of what you find below, there's no way to know. But what I can tell you is if all of the information that I have is correct, how familiar are you with history, my lord, or perhaps somebody on your staff? Do you have any experts in history?
I have the Grand Archivist herself. Celine, stand up, please.
Oh, I didn't know we were putting ourselves on the spot, but hi. I've read.
Grand Archivist, what an impressive title. Then I assume you are a well-learned woman versed in the ancient texts of the land and have a grasp on the history and how things came to be and so forth?
Sometimes I've read a. Depends on the, topic, but. So, what are you suggesting? What do you know
Well,
about this tomb?
yes, perhaps specifics are best. Well, as a brief primer, in case some of your companions are curious but don't necessarily have the level of knowledge that you or I do, then allow me to give just a brief overview. You see, many years ago, I'm sure all of you, as pretty much everybody in the land is familiar with the Battle of Mount Daysmar, when this land and everything was so cataclysmic and set things in motion for thousands of years to come, and while perhaps for ever after, you might even say, based on how impactful that situation was. But some people do not realize that the forces that lined up to fight at Mount Daysmar, which side each group took, of course, you had the humans, of course, and you had the dwarves on one side, and the elves were on one side, but not the entire time. Many people don't know this, but in fact, the elves started off on the side of the god of darkness, of Azrai. They fought for him, for, you see, humans, us, we were taking their land, cutting down their trees and so forth, and, well, the elves were swayed by the god of darkness's malicious speech, the shadowy tongue power that he had, convinced them that if they joined him, that he would sweep this land clean of humans, and the elves would be able to reclaim their stewardship of the land. It wasn't until some of the elves wised up, perhaps it was the good deities at the time who shine a light of knowledge upon them, that they switched sides. But you see, even when they switched sides, the vast, vast majority of elves switched sides, but not all of them. There were some die-hard elves that could not get over their hatred of humans. You might have heard of the very famous Anshelin, known as Rove Manslayer. He in fact dwells down in a shadowy realm of dark forest far to the southwest of here. But in fact, when that occurred, there were small clutches of elves, small little groups, and their hatred for humans was so great that they had to find places in order to secret themselves away, to study and come up with other ways of defeating the humans. They would just not be willing to live peacefully side by side with us. Therefore, there were small little, well, installations, I suppose you might call them, underground areas. I believe this location that I would like you to accompany me to is one such location. So, these elves, they secreted themselves away there, and what did they do? if my knowledge is correct here, what I've been able to find out is that they were seeking to harness a type of magic that was hitherto unknown in the land of Cerilia. They were trying to tap into a very foreign power, some would say not even from this world. If that is the case, who knows what might be down there?
Can I insight check him, Adam? Does it seem like he's giving us an honest recount of the story, or does it seem like he's like gallivanting in a way to try to convince us to come along with him?
You can give me a blind check, yeah.
Thank you.
You're really not sure? I mean, you just met this guy. He obviously seems, he's talking as though he's well informed. Whether that's just all bravado or legitimate, you're not sure.
I see, Mr. Serpentwind. And how long have you been researching this? Sounds like it's something that you're adamantly pursuing.
In some form or fashion for several years now, in fact. It's the different pieces have come together to create the whole piece. It's like a puzzle. One piece slots in, then another, then another. The full picture has only recently become clear to me, but I've been following up on the threads for quite some time.
I see. So, from your side, you're primarily asking us for, I guess, a strike force is the best term here. You're looking for us to provide you protection while you delve into these ruins and search for the orb, correct?
Well, I would more like to think of myself as an advisor who leads from the rear as the strike force enters in and breaks down all the threats and dangers and whatever else might be down there, while I provide moral support from the back, and my few magical talents as well, of course. But yes, I will be leading in a supervisory capacity, you might say.
Vin just kind of nods and looks over and goes, Counselors, any questions for Mr. Serpentwind before we send him on our way? You can understand, Mr. John, that we're going to need to have some time to discuss this amongst ourselves before we give you an honest confirmation.
That seems more than reasonable to me. Would you like me to exit now so you can have those conversations?
Sure. But before you go, counselors, anyone have any questions for the man?
Has your research given you any insight as to what threats or traps or anything we may find down there, or is this a blind expedition?
Well, it is more blind than transparent, I must say, Grand Archivist, but I would suppose that if we look to the text to tell us what these elves were like, these elves were filled with hate. They were so angry at the humans who were despoiling their lands. So traps, yes, I suppose the elves are known for using some types of traps. If they do, though, the elves were more into artistic or perhaps magical traps. They weren't in, not frequently anyway, with the sort of physical boulders falling down on your head kind of thing, but it is an ancient ruin, so who knows what time has done to the place and what that might do. As far as other threats, this magic source that I'm referring to that they were tapping into or trying to, it could really, who knows, it could bring in threats from the beyond, I want to say. Even there are some rumors that they dabbled in trying to create portals to the shadow realm. If that is true, who knows what still dwells down there, just waiting for someone to get into the ruins. But if you're well equipped and we are smart when we go down there, we of course, I would never ask any of you particularly, or even if you were to send others, to completely risk your lives for no reason or just without good precautions in place, let's say. If we should go there and discover that things are much worse than we anticipated, then of course we would come out and come up with a second plan.
There's probably other treasure and relics and stuff like that down there too, right?
I would suppose so, because the elves were known for being very high-minded, particularly when it comes to artwork and gems and things they were very fond of. Not similarly like the dwarven friends of ours who just mined them all the time, but more or less things of beauty they seemed very particular of and like to have them, so it's certainly possible that is the case. I also suspect they would probably be many magical kind of books of knowledge or conduits or foci, those kind of things likely might be down there still.
And forgive me if this is already decided, but how much of that will go to the kingdom and how much of that is for you?
Oh, yes. To reiterate, I am only looking for a very specific item that is down there. If we find that item, then everything else that is down there you would be able to retain. If we don't find that item, then I would just ask for an equal share. If the 5 of you are going, he looks over at the counselors, then the 6 of us total, I would take 1/6 of whatever it is that we share. We find the salvage value, that sort of thing.
And what again was that item?
It is an orb, in fact, and it is supposed to be an amplifier of magic.
So I'm glad you brought up the orb. Is there anything to suspect that this orb might be attached to dark or malice magic?
I suppose anything is possible, counselor, but in my experience, the vast majority of these type of magical items, they aren't cognizant. They're not good or evil. It really depends on who bears them, who wields them, who directs them.
So tell me about your vast experience. How long have you been a spellcaster, and have you been on many adventures?
I have been on a few. I am a magician in that proud tradition. I have studied both the powers of illusion magic as well as divination magic, and I consider myself to be quite the expert in both. I am not an archmage or anything along those lines, but I like to think that my talent is considerable. I will be able to protect myself much and try to do the same for you, but primarily I would say my knowledge lies in my power, my ability lies in knowledge. I'm very skilled and learned in many different areas of study. So, for example, if we were to find a pocket of swamp gas while we're down there, I know the precautions to take to prevent such a thing from becoming a catastrophe. If we were to see, let's say some of the architecture is a bit unstable, I would be able to look it over and tell you the likelihood that it will bear our weights. These types of things are really what is in my back pocket and what I bring to bear. And of course, like I say, my magical talent is considerable.
Oh, thank you. That is all. And Adam, does he have a spell book on his waist?
He does not seem to.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Serpentwind. If you'll wait outside for a minute or two and allow us to discuss things, we'll call you back in a moment.
Absolutely. He gives you a bow, then he looks towards the counselors, gives another bow. I look forward to hearing your answer. And with that, you see he pulls on this cloak and spins and exits the throne room.
Well, I'm interested in some elf stuff, so if you guys don't mind, I'd like to probably go on this mission.
Well,
All right.
I'll be frank. Actually, I'll be Dean, but I'm gonna just say
We
it.
understand. Just get it out,
What?
Chief Counselor.
What does this have to do with expanding our kingdom, our power and influence, to dissolve the guild and bring magic back to the land? And don't tell me we're going to get rich all of a sudden by digging through some ruins. If that's our only hope to better our chances to dismantle the guild, I'd have to be persuaded.
I think it sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
Well, it's very close too, so it won't take more than a day or two.
Saline, what do you think?
Well, you mentioned cool books, so that's a point in his favor for sure. It does sound dangerous, but it's going to take a long time. I don't want to upset you, Dean, but it's going to take a long time to stabilize our our finances, and this seems like a decent stopgap if what he says is true about the potential bounty down there. We have to do something to manage our economy, because right now the guild controls quite a lot of our options, so we're kind of limited in how we can develop that. If that means we have to go slumming it in dungeons, I mean, that might be what we have to do in the short term to make sure we don't run out of money before we ruin things. And also, we promised the dungeon master we would go, and he's prepared it all already, so he's gonna be really pissed off if we say no at this point.
Okay, well, I hear that.
All right.
I hear that.
Tavard, what do you think, sir? We've heard from everyone but you and me.
Just something about going down into a dungeon feels like home. This place here's a little stuffy I mean, don't get me wrong, the mead's good, the food's good, but, it's clobbering time sometimes, gotta do that from time to time. Keep in shape and all.
Vin, stands up from his little chair and kind of stretches and looks over all of you and smiles and goes, well, Dean, you're outvoted, first of all, but secondly, let me answer your questions. In sentiment to what Celine said, yes, you'll have to understand that for us to make any kind of dramatic impact upon this land, it's not going to be weeks, it's going to be years. It's not going to change overnight. And it's not like we can storm the walls of the guild holders or yada yada yada. We just can't do that. But every move we make has to be in relation to those goals. You're right to keep us centered and grounded. But there was a few things Mr. Serpentwind mentioned that made me a bit excited. The first is an outside source of power that's only located in our domain. It does not appear that Miele knows anything about this, or she may have investigated it already. So, it may give us an advantage to find out what's actually down there and what the elves were looking for. Because if we can harness that power, well, we would now have an advantage over Miele. 2. People messing around with the Shadow World is not any good business. As you all know, my brother, he made a particular pact with some entity that he met deep within a cave. Does not always mean that these things are good, or can bring good things to our realm. Sometimes they'll need to be stopped for good. So that may be what we find down there. If there's portals and things like that, we can assume that the creatures that we would have to fight to get to this orb are probably along the line of the same thing. Meaning we cannot have those creatures in our land unchecked. And finally, and most importantly, we're broke as shit. If we find a treasure chest full of gems down there, that would be a great asset to our state, or spell books, or historical artifacts that could bring knowledge to our background. All of these things could definitely substantially increase our wealth. There's too many unknowns about what exactly we're delving in, and to be honest, there's something about Mr. Serpentwind that kind of seems like he's hiding something, considering he did not tell us where he did his research or how he came across these things, only that that's what he does. I echo your sentiments of, is this worth it? But I have to say that I believe it would be, especially if we can get some answers and come across some powers that could increase the power of our province as a whole.
Didn't he also say the elves were mad at the magic being taken from the cutting down the trees and taking magic away from the land?
Yeah, they're like you.
Well, I'm not an elf, but yeah, like me. So
Yeah,
there might be some insights on how to bring back the powers to the land that we find.
yeah, for sure. But I think one important thing, if this orb seems too dangerous to the realm for this John Serpentwind to have it, we can't let him have it. We have to take it. Now, whether we tell him that ahead of time or not is the question.
Well, he seems awfully guarded about what that orb actually does. He referred to it as an amplifier, but it doesn't appear that he has many abilities already. He made the specific point about being an advisor and not participating in any kind of fighting outside of probably saving his own skin. So, what exactly would he be amplifying about himself?
Well,
It's a good point, Blixel.
Maybe it's
yeah,
just a
and people
magnifying
can say a
glass.
lot of things, or maybe he has one spell that's not very impressive, but then he magnifies it, and all of a sudden we got a portal to the shadow realm in the middle of the city.
I'm glad we're
Exactly.
considering this after we gave that pot full of infinitely replicating undead to a guy who looks like he came straight out of a 16-year-old's fantasy novella.
Yeah, but they are allies now. Oh,
And it's
will
in a
be
different
shortly.
realm. It's not in our realm. Right where
And
I
we got
like it.
paid for it.
I think if Michael trusts that guy too, I put a lot of stock in Michael. I don't know why. He just seems like a good guy. And I think if he trusts him, it's okay that we gave that away. This guy just came up off the street. You know what I mean?
Just like Counselor Darngard was talking with the gentleman with the cloak and keeping a good eye on where that magic item goes. We should do the same with Mr. Serpentwind and this orb, but it sounds like we're at least all in agreement that we should consider helping him. So maybe we'll bring him back in now and let him know that we'll come along. But
Well,
I'd like to set.
here's the thing. Wait, before we bring him back in, are we going to
Okay.
tell him that if it's too dangerous for him to have the orb, we're going to take it away from him? Are we going to go into this agreement with full transparency, or are we going to just keep it in our back pocket that we might steal it away from him?
I suggest that we agree that the orb will equally be identified by him and from a member of our party. And then we can discuss after we've fully identified what this item does and is capable of doing.
And I
That sounds
suggest
like a good compromise.
that if we need to take it away from him, he befalls a mysterious accident while in the dungeon and doesn't return.
Yeah.
Vin kind of smiles and says, "I think these actions should be one that we know and do not speak to Mr. Serpentwind about. However, we don't need to go into this with the identity of being thieves or anything of the like. Um, Anything that we do that has a potential negative outlook needs to be quantified and calibrated because, well, we're people of renowned power now, everyone. We cannot have the loyalty of our people shaken because of our actions in some dark dungeon."
I would lay the conditions clear that there will be no attunement of this item until both parties, our party and him, have equally identified it and are successful in doing so.
And we'll let him know it's in case it's a threat to our province. We would like to know about it before we just handed it over. I feel like that's a great solution to you.
We just need to give Celine a pearl, right? You still looking for a pearl, Celine?
Yeah, it would need to be one of
Uh,
sufficient value to be able to identify, if you will, with a capital
Okay.
I,
I
We'll
think we
send
can
out
get
one of
one of
your
those now.
manservants. You've got manservants now, Celine. Send one out.
Wait, since when?
Since you became a counselor, and you live in a castle. Don't you see them all around?
Yeah, you don't get paid, but now you have servants.
I think they're your servants, but yes.
I'm
It's,
going to be someone's manservant, I'm pretty sure.
You are acting seneschal. What do you mean?
What's that guy's name again? Who's overseeing? Oh, this is private. He's out. What's his name again? The guy who's
Asking us? John
no,
Serpentwind.
the guy who's helping us set up and everything. I forget
Tannen.
Tannen, yeah, Tannen. Just ask Tannen to go get you a pearl
Yeah.
of 100 gold pieces.
All right, so let's bring this guy back in. Oh, this is exciting. We're going to go in a weird elf dungeon.
Before he's back in, I'd like to assign someone to keep an eye on him while we're down there. It's your job to make sure that they don't do anything shady or backhanded behind our backs. Does anybody have any volunteers for this?
I can try.
Well, I would imagine you would probably be more distracted to what's happening in front of us, Serena. Hopefully, at
Fair.
least.
That's true.
Same
would
here.
need
I'll be
someone.
way up front.
It would be Dian or Celine or perhaps Blixel that would have this job in addition
Then
to making sure we all don't die.
we will all play defense and make sure, depending
Yeah.
on the situation, we'll keep an eye on him.
We're strong adventurers. He needs us. So I'm not too worried about him until he gets that orb.
I'll kind of nod in their direction and I'll hold my hand up and say, Tannen, you can let him back in.
You notice Tannen nods, and you see once again there's an exchange at the door. And you see Mr. Serpentwind comes in after about a minute or two, and you see he has a slight smile on his face as he approaches. My, that was quick. I hope we have good news, my lord.
Mr. Serpentwind, the council has unanimously agreed on two things. The first is to help you, and the second is the condition upon which we do so. Are you willing to hear our condition?
Of course.
Someone from our party will identify the object that you're seeking before we allow you to retain possession of said object. In doing so, we only want to be completely sure that it is not a threat to our realm or anybody's health specifically. We are not doing this because we simply distrust you, John. We're only doing this because the realm is impressionable, and we do not want anything from Shadow World to undead elves with a grudge to come back and haunt our realm. Can you understand this?
Well, in concept, I understand what you are saying, but well, who decides if it's a threat to the realm? You understand, my lord, that that could be almost anything, right? Like if this, let's say, for example, this orb allowed you to cast a fireball from it. Would you say, well, that is a danger to the realm because it's offensive? Can you give me some parameters about what you mean?
That's respectable, Mr. Serpentwind. In terms of dangers to the realm, I guess the best way to categorize it would be A, it opens portals to other dimensions that could let things in. B, it is cursed in some way and recalls or causes madness to the user. That madness could lead to somebody making evil decisions, I suppose. And third, I don't categorize someone who can send a fireball from an orb as any more dangerous than somebody wielding two blades gets within 2 feet of you. If you have the intent to kill, then, well, you'll kill. Only things that could distinctly threaten our realm, bringing more dangers to us, not any specific ability that could cause danger to someone. Does that help?
It does, yes. And if I have your word, that's all that you are concerned about. All of my research shows it simply amplifies magic. It does not open portals, like you said, and I strongly hope that it is not cursed. I've read nothing like that. But yes, I would be happy to allow you to do that. I just, you understand that I went through great expense to acquire this treasure map and did very many hours of study and research to find this location. I just wanted to make sure this wasn't something that you were going to have one of your folks here identify magically, and then if you realize that it will increase someone's magical power, which that's exactly what it does, that you would consider that a threat. So, of course, there will be no portals from it, and you will be able to determine that yourself, and there will be no province-wide pestilence or curses or anything like that. I completely understand.
You have our word. That is our biggest concern, and you've made a generous offer to allow us to fill our coffers with anything else we may find. So, we have no problem allowing you to take this orb that you seek, in addition to you allowing us to identify it beforehand and make sure that it is not a dangerous thing for us to give you.
Excellent, excellent. I am very glad to hear that, my lord. Shall we put this in writing, then?
We shall. We shall. We'll have Tannen get with you and draw up a contract going over the specifics. We have a very long list of petitioners behind you, Mr. Serpentwind. So odds are that maybe within this week sometime, we would like to take this upon ourselves. How long of a journey do you think it would be from here to there?
By foot, I believe it will be about a day, perhaps a little bit less. So the general area we will probably get to in about 6 hours or so, 7 hours, something like that. But then really finding the exact entrance to the ruins is going to be a task in and of itself.
Fantastic.
Well, yes,
We'll
I
need a couple of
understand.
days.
That is no problem at all. Yes, as long as we can leave within, say, 5 days, I would be, anytime between now and 5 days, I would be ecstatic to accept your assistance in this. I will work with your Lord Tannen, you said. I will work with him to make sure the things are drafted up appropriately and our understanding is codified here in writing. And I very much look forward to this, and I will waste no more of your time, as I'm sure you're all very busy people. Thank you once again. And you see he does another bow to both sides.
And I'll kind of stand up and give him a small head nod and say, before you go, Mr. Serpentwin, I would like you to know that I will not be going along with you, but these 5 members of the council will. I will have my lieutenant go in my stead.
That is more than suitable. Yes, I never expected that you yourself would go. Obviously we will do the best we can, but there are dangers, and certainly we wouldn't want to, well, jeopardize the health of the regent. I look forward to meeting your lieutenant and working with him in your stead.
I'll smile and say, it takes a lot more than some undead, pissed-off elves to kill me, but I've just got a lot of work to do, Mr. Serpentwind. Have a good remainder of your day. And yes, get with Lord Tannen, and we will speak with him about the specifics and what went on here. I'm sure he can hear us all, and I'll kind of wave to him in the back, and I'll give him a nod and say, good day to you.
You see he does another nod to you and exits as he walks down the long area to the doors out of the throne room.
I'll have Mr. Tannen come on over before he invites the next person in so we can just have a quick word with him.
He does indeed approach, and he says, I was indeed able to hear most of that. Is there anything in particular you wish to make sure that the documentation clarifies, or pretty much exactly as was discussed?
You heard our discussion while he was out as well, I suppose, so you understand we would like to keep an eye on him. If you can, get him to agree to putting down maybe an address or a place of residence, maybe as like a formal title or something along those lines. Maybe try to disguise it if you can. If he seems to be restrictive towards it, do not force it upon him. But if we could have some way of knowing where he's at afterwards, just in case we need to keep eyes on the item, then I'd like to have it.
I shall do what I can, my lord. Would you like me to inquire quietly about where Mr. Serpentwind came from and any perhaps known associates or anything along that lines in advance of your departure?
I'll smile and say, yes. You think of it all, Lord Tannen. Yes, that sounds great. Especially considering the members of the council here will be diving into dark dungeons with him. We don't want any surprises.
He nods. I shall see what I can uncover, my lord. Counselors, are you ready for the rest of your public petitioners? Typically, for public petitioners, we open the doors here and we allow anybody who would wish to stand in the gallery there. You see he motions to both sides of the throne room. Oftentimes, members of court and others, not just anybody off the street, of course, but nobles, friends of nobles, high-class merchants, these type of things, the folks who are inside of the castle, they will sometimes come and sit and just observe. I assume you wish the practice to work similarly with your activities here now?
Sounds fine to me. Any specific rejections from the council?
Well,
Oh.
no, but isn't there one more private meeting by my count?
One more Oh, I am so sorry. So he looks down at some paperwork. Yes, you are correct. There is indeed one final private petitioner. Let me see if I can go scare her up.
Also, Lord Tannen, I'll need to find a worthy adventurer to take my stead. Someone I can trust. Someone, perhaps that, I guess you can say is not under guild influence. If you could have maybe a few recommendations for me at some point, that would be lovely. I'll meet with them
Yes.
today.
Yes, indeed, my lord. You had mentioned this previously. I've been giving it some thought, and I have an idea of one in particular. He's a bit of a wild card, if I do say so myself, but maybe that's exactly what you need in an adventuring party. Let me see if he is available.
Hey,
He
my
does
buddy
sound up our
Franco.
alley.
My buddy Franco may want to come.
You notice
That's the
Lord
guy
Tanner
who
looks
does
over
like
to you,
the.
Tabard, and looks, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
He's a tailor.
Lord Tannen kind of nods slowly, looking back over to Vin. Yes, I shall see if the individual I'm thinking of is available. Anything else, counselors, before I go find the one last private petitioner?
Oh, yes, and I don't mean to pile on you, but you might want to. This list is getting long. Could you send one of your servants to go get? Well, actually, go get $100 from the treasury and send your servant just to go buy a pearl for me. That'd be great.
You see he turns and looks towards you, Vin. Is this an approved expenditure of funds, Lord Gladnell?
I will need that pearl to cast Identify on the orb.
He
What do you...
nods. Yes, that will be no problem. I know just the shopkeeper in town who sells these types of things. I will have it taken care of post haste.
Fantastic. All right. And I'll stand up and kind of give my legs a stretch. All right. I'm ready.
Speaking of, can I sit down now, Vin?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You could sit down when you finish talking, I suppose. Just
He's been
wanted you to say
awkwardly
hi.
standing the whole time because he never told her.
Yeah.
No.
That's good.
Vin silently realizes the power he now holds. Oh, man.
All right, you notice Lord Tannen exits, much as he has done previously, and it does take about 10 minutes or so before he returns. During this time, is there anything in particular you guys are doing in the throne room?
I think Blix will start playing his drum.
All right, fair enough. So we start hearing this rhythmic drum beat.
Yeah, can you have him give a blind check, Adam, see how that goes? But otherwise, I think we should worry about security if we're bringing people in as well.
What about some security? Do you want are guards going to be up there in case we have, somebody try to, I don't know, assassinate you or something?
Well, you and Serena could stand at the head of these statues while I sit at the throne, I guess.
Yeah, but if people coming and they're going to be out and about and stuff, and if I'm protecting you, I mean, I can only throw a dart so far. You know what I mean?
Perhaps we'll have a few members of the guard inside, sure.
There was a bodyguard guy who wants to work as a bodyguard.
Yeah, I wonder how many is coming in, right? I mean, that's the question, and this is so apropos.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the question.
We'll have guards here when we're not here for Vin.
Okay, let's bring some guards in, and we'll see if it gets too crowded. But I'm ready. Also, I'm sure we all are. It would be a foolish move for sure. And you could probably uncannily dodge most of the stuff.
Worst comes to worst, he does have a countermeasure.
I don't have uncanny dodge, but
Oh.
It's also nothing bad's happening. We're just letting the villagers come in.
Yeah,
you know
these
what I
are
mean?
just people who live here who want to ask for help. So if anybody gets pissed off and can beat up Tavard and Serena on the way in, then... Well,
Oh, that ain't gonna happen. I'm talking about the people that are shooting from a distance. I mean, I'm not worried about anyone beating my ass. No.
how long is this room, Adam, from us over here to the door where the people are coming in?
From your seat to the doors is right about 100 feet.
I see.
But that's okay. We may like this lieutenant guy better.
All right. Well, I'm ready for the last guy.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, yes, after that 10 minutes or so elapses, Lord Tannen returns and kind of gives you a nod. And once again, you see the announcer blow his horn, and he calls out, Miss Esme West, wishes to speak with the Lord and the council. And you notice a woman now walks on into this area, and you can see as she does, she is dressed in like really flesh tight like leather. So think of this as like leather leggings, a leather jerkin, and she even has a leather choker around her neck. Everything looks really, really tight. And even as she's moving, you can hear a little bit of almost like skin on leather friction as she does so. And she kind of has a strange gait to how she walks. Rather than just walking straight, she's walking slightly side to side. Almost gets you the impression of like a serpentine maneuver or something along those lines. You notice as she gets a bit closer, she gives an inclination of her head. You see these green eyes in her face seem to very much reflect the light. Very bright, almost emerald-like, you might say. And you see she looks towards you all, and she says, "Greetings, greetings. I did not expect that I would be meeting so many people on this private request. Are you all counselors, or how exactly is this?"
Yeah. We're all counselors here, except for you, I guess.
She nods. "Then why do one of you sit at the throne and the other sit at a table?"
Is this what you came to us for, to have this discussion?
"No, of course not, but I am a procurer of knowledge. Knowing things is my trade, and, well, this is an unknown. Forgive me for trying to answer that question, but perhaps we shall dispense with the pleasantries. As I said, I'm a procurer of knowledge, and I am in need of employment, so I was hoping that you would be interested in my services."
If you give us 50 gold, we'll tell you what you want to know about our arrangement here.
You see, she smiles slightly as she looks towards you. "Ah, you must be the guild representative."
No. Now it's free.
"Oh, I see. Well, no, that is not worth that price to me, but information, my counselors, is very valuable, and you will find that it is indispensable in ruling this land, and, well, the more you have, the better off you are. I'm sure you would agree."
Plexel's afraid to give any answer that gives information, so he's just stoically staring straight forward.
I'd certainly agree with you. Do you have any other employers at this time?
"I do not. That is why I'm looking for employment, my lady."
What are your
Yeah,
qualifications? What makes you so good at finding information out?
"Well, I am known as a very thorough interviewer. If you have an individual that you wish to learn something of, but they seem to not wish to loosen their lips and tell the truth, I have a way with words that has allowed me to swindle things out of their lips that perhaps they wish they hadn't already said or didn't say at all, in fact. I can't really give you any kind of proof of this because, well, the devil is in the details. You would have to see me at work to see my talent, my skill."
Okay. What number am I thinking of?
"I am not psychic, my lord, but if you're looking at me, it should be at least 150 gold."
And that's to keep you on retainer?
"Oh, no. To keep me on retainer is far cheaper than that. I ask for simply expenses and a salary that is requisite with my skills. 3 gold pieces per day would suffice."
But if we just had one person we wanted you to interrogate or whatever you do, it would be 150 gold pieces to do it.
You see, she smiles a little bit and she says, "I'm afraid that my humor went over your head. I don't work on contract with just here and there. If you wish for my skills, you must bring me on a retainer. This is 3 gold pieces per day. There may be weeks that go by where you have nobody that you need me to do work on. That is okay. I will fill my time in other ways. But then when you do, I am here at your disposal. You won't have to try to find somebody that does this. And trust me when I say that my price is far more fair than most people in this line of work.
And you're not torturing.
That depends on what you consider torture and what rules that you set forth. I, of course, will only do what you are willing to permit.
I would consider it mostly physical damage. And then he winks at her, I guess.
You
Do you
see
live
she
here?
takes a step back for a moment as she looks over to Dian. I live in this area. Yes, I do. As far as what exactly is needed, each person is different, you see. For some, it is just a kind word that gets them to speak. For others, it is a caress on the shoulder. But yet for some who are tighter up than full plate armor, it does take a bit more pride.
Is your only skill communicating, or do you have other ways of getting knowledge other than just talking to them?
I have other ways of getting knowledge from people, yes.
Hmm.
Who was your previous employer?
In my line of work, my lord, I'm afraid that information is kept under tight grasp. You see, we have to make sure that we fulfill our requirements to our employer, but our employers don't necessarily want us gabbing everything we've done under their employ. I'm sure you can understand.
Did not ask you to reveal their secrets, only who they were.
But by telling you who they are, that gives you a connection, which perhaps gives you more information than what they would like.
Have you ever worked for the guild?
The guild here in Cariele, I have on occasion, yes, but I will say I was never on retainer for them. When I was a bit younger, in fact, I did a few odd jobs for them.
Hmm. How about
So
this court? Have you ever done work for this court prior?
You see, she smiles at you this time, Dean. Well, if I said yes, that would mean that I worked for Lord Entier Gladnil, in which case that would be revealing my employer, would it not?
Hmm. Clever.
If you worked for Inter, then you must have struggled through a lot. That man is as dumb as a fucking horse.
You see, she chuckles a bit. Well, who exactly is hiring me and employing me is not my business. It is getting the information that they require. Getting it discreetly, in fact, is the skill that I bring to the table.
Why do you present yourself to this court now to be on retainer? Sounds like previously you've only done odd jobs here and there, as if you work for yourself. Why commit to loyal service under someone else?
In fact, my lord, I have been working on retainer for about 5 years now. It has not been 5 years with a single employer, but a handful, you might say. Those odd jobs I did was when I was a bit younger, past 5 years, 5 years longer than that, in fact. But I don't really do odd jobs anymore. I find they bring more trouble than they bring security, and honestly, that is what I am looking for, security. I don't want to constantly be in looking for more work, constantly wondering if I'm going to be able to pay the bills and so forth, so a steady salary is what I am after.
Well, why did you part ways with your last person that had you on retainer?
They could no longer afford me, counselor.
Hmm.
So, Esme, was it?
Esme, yes.
How discreet is discreet? As in to the grave? Because, I read something once. If you want to find out all the information, you torture the torturer.
You see, she smiles a little bit at this as well. Well, indeed, in being trained in this line of work, I have also been trained in countermeasures. I'm afraid it would take quite a lot for you to get anything out of me, but we could talk about that over wine perhaps one day. You see, she smiles again.
Vin doesn't really show any facial regard to it, but he takes immediate note. But he goes, in response, he kind of looks her up and down and he'll say, well, if we have you on retainer, there may be times when we send you to do things outside of just procuring knowledge from one individual. It may be to procure knowledge from an entire operation. How are your skills in something along those lines?
Most typically, people are brought to me in a secured facility and I procure the knowledge from them. If what you're suggesting is some type of subterfuge, entering an area, taking possession of this person that you want knowledge from, bringing them back here, getting the knowledge, and so forth, my expenses would be much, much higher.
But you are capable of such duties?
Capable, yes, but willing is another question. I have done well for myself by only selecting jobs I know I can be successful at. If you ask me to go somewhere and try to obtain knowledge from somebody that I know I can't infiltrate them, they're too well protected, then the answer will be no.
You see, the person I want to hire for this particular position will have two positions. And he kind of looks her up and down. The second position will be revealed upon contract, of course, but the first position is quite clear. If there's threats to the nation, we want to know about them. Obviously.
That type of information gathering sounds more like a spy master, my lord. Is that what you're looking for?
It sounds like someone of your skills would definitely be necessary for some of the things we may do in this province and need from this province. Do you have any recommendations for maybe us hiring a spy master?
You see, she kind
I
of
eyeball
pauses
her
for
and
a
like lean
moment.
forward.
She kind of pauses for a moment, looks down, and then looks back up. I could be persuaded to work as your spy master as well as your interviewer when it is necessary, but being a spy master is not simply a hourly kind of job. It is kind of all encompassing. It fills your life entirely. That would mean far more expenses, of course, because, well, I want to enjoy my time when I'm not working. But so if I'm working all of the time, the pay has to be enough that when I finally retire, I can just sit back and eat the foods I want, drink what I want, and be entertained how I want, which is very expensive.
Vin doesn't respond and looks towards the council.
Well, we'd have to think about it for sure. So,
Yeah. Are you local, or is there some place we can reach you?
I am local for now, but if I am not able to find employment here, I will be moving on. I know that there is work close by here if you were to say you don't need my services, so I would be on the move pretty soon, but I will be around for at least another 2 weeks, perhaps.
Excellent. I mean, you seem capable, but we need to make some decisions here.
That is understandable. And I shall leave you to make those decisions and discussions as you wish. If you would like, I can check back in here with your staff in 3 days' time.
Sounds appropriate.
You see, she smiles once again, and as she turns now, you notice there is this little bit of like bulge at her hip where part of the cloth of her jerkin kind of hangs over it. Anybody that's particularly curious here can throw a blind check to see if they can recognize what this is. But you notice that after doing this smile and kind of turn, she begins walking out the throne room.
Does it look like a tail that's bunched up?
No, it does not. It's actually at her side. Let's see, checking the checks. Looks like only Vin. Only Vin. So Vin, as you're looking at this, you notice that it looks to be a very tightly coiled whip.
Stop.
She does so. She turns back. Oh, have you already made a decision?
Why did you come into this meeting armed?
You see she holds her hands out. I am not armed. They, in fact, said I had to place all of my weapons outside of this room.
Serena, she has a whip on her hip.
You notice she looks down to her hip as you say this. Oh, just a bit of rope that I had put together this way to make it easier to transport. It is of no threat to you. Imagine how long it would take me to pull this out and even try to use it.
Serena stands up and starts to move toward her.
She stands there. She doesn't seem like she's nervous or anything.
You have to understand, Miss West. You're not looking at Intia. All of us have delved into dungeons and fought monsters and yada yada ourselves. I myself have trained with a lot of weapons. I know a whip when I see one. That is a weapon. You've concealed it among your person. I just want to know why. You can drop the subterfuge if you want to get hired here. I don't need anyone trying to walk around with hidden agendas.
Well,
Answer me.
perhaps that's exactly what you need, my lord. If wouldn't you want somebody who is on your staff to always be prepared even when they're supposed to give up all of their weapons?
Vin stands up,
Spread
draws
your
both of his daggers, and walks. Says, do you think that none of us are prepared to engage in life or death battle at this very moment? Is that what you think of us? Do you think us some weak counsel who sits behind a desk and is not capable of fighting for ourselves if we need to defend our land from any threat, whether domestic or international?
You see,
Do
she
you
puts a
understand who
hand
you're
up
speaking to?
as you're starting to approach, and she says, I was actually exiting. What threat did I pose? I didn't try to pull the whip out or anything like that. If you have taken my words as some kind of hidden threat, then I beg your forgiveness.
Every question you've asked us so far, Miss West, has been one of inquisitive nature. You don't think that I immediately understood what you did when you walked in here and started interviewing us? This was not us interviewing you at first. This was you getting knowledge on who you were looking at. Now you can see us. And I'll spin my daggers and sheath them both and tell Serena that it's okay. She can walk and go back. And I'll walk up to her and say, you have to understand. If you work for us, this is the kind of person we need. You can leave now. And I'll turn and walk back.
The rest of the console notice that she kind of waits until Vin spins, and then she does the same, perhaps a bit slower. She doesn't say anything. She just kind of turns and maybe walks out a bit quicker than she walked in.
Tannen, send in the guards, please. The ones in charge of patting people down.
Don't say please.
You notice Lord Tannen nods and says, yes, yes, let me take care of that for you. And you see he kind of exit once again, and probably 5 minutes or so passes by when you notice 3 guardsmen actually walk in this time, and you see them kind of like looking around. They're wearing the typical like chain armor with helmets, and you can see them holding on to long spears. As they kind of are walking in, you see them kind of eyeing the throne room, as this is not something they're very accustomed to. And you see the 3 of them walk in, and then Lord Tannen kind of walks a little bit behind him, and he says, my lord, counselors, these are the 3 guards who are on duty here, checking each of the petitioners to assure that they didn't have anything dangerous upon them.
That petitioner was armed with a whip, gentlemen.
You notice the guards kind of like look to one another, and you hear one of them kind of whispers, I didn't see a whip. And you notice the other one, I didn't see it either. Beg our forgiveness, my lord. We didn't see a whip.
But you saw a rope tied around her waist, or what you deemed as a rope, yes.
Yes, yeah, I saw the rope, but lots of people have rope, my lord. I didn't realize.
Yes, they carry rope around them as they walk around the city, gentlemen.
Some do, yes. The merchants and the people. A bit of rope is always helpful now and then. You never know when you're going to need it.
Do they need it in this council meeting?
Well, no, I suppose not, my lord. Yes, you're right. We should have caught that.
If anyone has anything on their person that can cause damage to anyone else, you keep it.
You
Do
notice
you understand me?
this guard kind of nods, and the other one looks like at the other guards, maybe look a little bit confused, but kind of elbows the one next to him, and they're all just nodding. Yep, yes, understand.
I've definitely been trained in weaponry. What she had was specialized to her, and it was a whip. I'm familiar with the specifics of it, and I ask you next time, allow people to come in with just empty pockets. Yes.
Yes, of course. We'll make sure.
Now we're going to let the public petitioners in here shortly. They'll all be patted down and made sure that they don't, have swords and whatnot, of course. And we'll need the three of you posted along the back entrance, just in case something were to go awry. Do you understand me?
Yes. And you notice the one says, my lord, just to make sure, do you want us to pat down the gallery too?
Anyone that gets within talking distance to us, they need to be sure that they do not carry arms. Do you understand me? The gallery, standing amongst the back, that's your job to make sure that they do not present a threat. The ones who walk towards us and get within arm's reach, we can defend ourselves there. But what we cannot do is pay attention to both who is speaking to us and the multiple people in the crowd. I'll need your eyes on it. Do you understand me?
You see him kind of nod, but you're not sure he totally understands you. But you notice Lord Tana behind says, yes, my lord, what we shall do is we will post 4 guards on each side of the gallery, and they will be focused on the gallery participants there, making sure that there is no concern from the gallery. I don't suspect there will be any, but this hopefully will give everybody a bit of peace of mind.
And have you heard
There's
back from
already
Arthur? Sorry,
Um,
Serena, go ahead.
there's already been an assassination attempt on a member of this council, so I really don't think we can take security lightly.
You notice the 3 guards kind of like their mouths kind of drop open and they look like kind of in shock. And Lord Tennant says, yes, of course, Counselor. We will do everything we can to ensure the safety of the Council and the Lord. As far as Arthur, my lord, yes, in fact, he has reported back recently. He has some information to share with you. Would you like me to bring him in before we bring in the public petitioners?
That'd be fantastic. And he can meet us just like we would meet a private petitioner, please.
Yes, I shall send him right in then. Are you finished with these 3?
Yes.
Thank you, my lord. Guardsmen, please exit with me now. And you see he turns, and the guardsmen all give you a salute and sign it off the salute, and then turn on their heels and walk out, kind of chatting quietly between one another. You can tell it's a bit of like a, maybe they look a little bit like surprised as they're kind of walking out.
Imbeciles. They allow a freaking torturer to come in with rope?
You have a lot of work ahead of you, my lord.
She's bold, though. She probably persuaded those gentlemen that it was no threat. Something I would have done. I liked her. We need someone that can get us information about you-know-who.
But we have to procure people for the explicit purpose of torture, which doesn't seem that helpful, honestly.
Yeah, that means you think about. Go ahead.
No, the only thing I was going to give her a small task. So tell me what you know about Mr. Serpentwind. But after she said you bring them to me and I just read their minds with whatever she can do, it doesn't seem very practical, as Serena says.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You have to intentionally go out, grab somebody, bring them in. Now, if that's the, the method, then that's okay. You just gotta know that that's what you're doing.
Our main job would be, I assume, prisoners and of the like, needing information from them. That would be what her primary role is. But as I was acquiring about her potentially being a quote unquote spy master, it was in regards to having someone that can look into guild activities without necessarily implicating us. The other job would just simply be a cover job for what her real job would be, and that would be dissolving the guild long term. We need information to do that, and what are we going to do?
I
Do it
mean,
ourselves.
I wouldn't trust her that information, honestly. I think she can be useful, but I don't trust her loyalty. She was asking a lot of questions about us.
It's
I
her
actually,
job.
I actually trust her loyalty. I mean, it's your call if we need her or not. But I mean, I'm just saying that it's not like she gave up anybody else's information. So whatever that means.
I'm concerned about what she said regarding other work nearby. I think, I'm not sure, but I think she was implying that if we refuse her services, she might offer them to other people we don't want her offering her services to. So perhaps if we keep her on retainer, by so doing, we also keep her out of the hands of people who would use her against us.
Not only did she bring a weapon to this court, she also threatened this court. You're absolutely correct.
Meh, I don't know if she threatened us.
Oh yeah? You don't let me do this interrogation work for you, I'm gonna have your nearby countries get my services. That's a threat.
She just
But
said nearby.
it's also a salesman tactic. Fear of missing out. You create that eagerness to have them instead of anyone else. It's a simple trick, peddler's trick. I wouldn't
It's
look
a
at it as
threat.
a threat, Dean.
It's a threat.
Well, I mean, my vote is if we have 2 weeks. If we find someone that we need her services for in those 2 weeks, we hire her.
You have 3 days. She says she'll be leaving in 3 days if she can't find work.
No, she said a couple of weeks. The
Three
other
days
guy
is
said
the
Maybe I
other day.
misunderstood.
Yeah, 3 days is the other dude.
No, but
Well,
Bill's also partially right. She said, I'll come back in 3 days. Is that all right, my lords? And you said yes. But yeah,
okay,
technically,
cool.
she also
Yeah.
did say that she's not leaving for 2 weeks. So both
he just
both
said
are correct.
we ain't got nothing for you in 3 days, and maybe we'll hire you before you leave or something. Because
And if anything, I was impressed. You have to look at it from her angle. She obviously needs work. I mean, as anybody does to make a living. She's going to go with the highest bidder, and it seems like loyalty is bought with her. It is not earned. It is bought. If we buy it, we have it. And she does seem like someone who can get things done. She persuaded a handful of castle guards to allow her to keep a weapon with her as she walked in front of this council.
She's someone who can get one thing done. She said herself she does one thing. I don't see how that's useful to us at all.
100%, Serena.
If you want somebody
100.
tortured, I'll torture them.
Yes, Serena, exactly.
I'm not.
Hey,
I think.
Lord Vin, how many people do we have in our cells that need to be tortured right now?
I think you're misunderstanding my point. I don't need to hire someone to procure knowledge from individuals in our cells. I need
That's
someone.
all she said she does. That's all
Mm,
she said she does.
She said if we paid her correctly, she would also take on the role of spy master.
Now that's what I think we need.
That's where my objective purely lies. I could give a shit less about her interrogating a few prisoners here and there.
I guess we should have gotten a quote for that service.
If she's returning in a few days, we can have that quote given to us then, but that's my main focus. Does that make more sense to everyone? That's what I was interviewing her for. I was not interviewing her for the position she claimed.
My only concern is that maybe she's doing the same thing that you want her to do to someone else, to us.
I think once you get her service, you're secured in her service. She could have just sat there and haggled. She just said, "Here's my price." People who just say, "Here's my price," who are providing a service, I don't know. I mean, you never know. But, I mean, I tell you what, my price is 3 gold a day, too. haven't seen a copper, but, you know.
All right. Sounds good. In 3 days, we find out how much it costs to make her a spy.
We all agree that that would be her primary focus, right? Someone to dive into the deeper dwellings of the guild, what they're doing, how they're doing it, when they're doing it.
Sure, if she's capable. I don't know. We've never tested her, or we could have her go find out what this serpent wind is and get an actual product back. Then we have an intelligence product to work with.
Well,
Trial
just like
basis.
any new contract-oriented position, there's always a probationary period. We'll say, within 90 days, if you can't prove that your services have been rendered in a correct way, then, we'll no longer need uses of your service or something along those lines. We have to give her incentive to want to find out information and do it quickly. And if it's not her, then we need to inquire about other ones. Wouldn't you agree?
It would be useful to have.
I do feel more comfortable finding one on our own rather than accepting a walk-in volunteer for 3 gold a day.
That is not how much she would be paid for what we're going to ask her to do, Dean. Did you miss that part? She said it would be
I got,
infinitely more higher.
But she just walked in and offered her services for 3 gold a day, as opposed to us finding someone who could do the job for whatever we ask for.
Seems we're in a bit of impasse about what to do with this one. So why don't we have a few days to discuss it and think about it? So why don't we take some time,
Circle back.
circle back to it, everybody, put some thought into it, and if anything comes up that seems right out awry, then we'll talk about it then. And hoorah, shada bing. Let's not argue about it. We've got a long day ahead of us. I trust you guys with my life. If you don't feel comfortable hiring her, then so be it, but I want you to think about it. She seemed well skilled. I
just wanna know
recognize
how
this
much she's
guy
gonna
easily.
charge.
Sorry, I did not hear you, Serena.
I
There's
just
a
want to
bug
know
in
how
my
much
ear.
she's gonna charge.
That's fair. Alright. Does anybody want to do a shot before we let everybody come in? I got this whiskey bottle still from the Hog's Head. Anybody?
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
You want us
pour
to
in my
go ahead
mouth when I play the drum.
There she goes.
Anything to liven up these proceedings.
Stretch a little bit. Take out my flask and kind of give it just a small drag. Obviously, I don't want to be too impaired, but, loosen me up a little bit. Stretch my neck out. I'll pass it around the table and kind of give a good walkabout around the room while I'm stretching and waiting for Arthur to show up.
And we
should do
see
this every
a
time.
1 hour later prompt, and we see Vin on the throne. Yeah, we'll totally sponsor your kid's softball team.
I won't let him do it. I'm staying sober.
All right, so you and Serena both have a plug off of your whiskey here, and then let Lord Tannen know that you want to speak with Arthur.
Blixel's partaking too, just for the record.
Ah, okay, Blixel as well.
Yeah, this is a small little shot, little half baby shot, little sippy sip.
Serena takes 2.
All right, fair enough. So it's maybe 10 or 15 minutes later then when Lord Tannen calls from the doors, lets you know that Arthur is here, ready to speak with you, and indicates, just kind of questioning that you're ready for him.
Give him a thumbs up.
Okay, the door is then opened, and you notice Arthur walks in, and you see he's got a bit of like pep in his step as he's striding forth. It looks like he's perhaps a bit happy here. As he approaches the throne room, he's holding onto the spear, much like you've seen all of the other guardsmen. He kind of pokes it to the ground, and he says, my lord, very strange turn of events, but, let me fill you in. So, you see, at the Hog's Head, there was no sign of that woman. And I even asked the proprietor there, and I said, do you see anybody like this? Was there a woman? The proprietor said no, hadn't seen that woman by that description in quite some time. So that got me thinking, right? Well, where could she have gone? She couldn't have just vanished or disappeared, right? And, well, she must be looking for resources or looking for help or something like that to try to make sure that she has an easy way of getting out of here and so forth. So I did a little bit of digging. I hope that's okay, my lord. I wanted to see if I could get to the bottom of this. And, well, you wouldn't believe it, but in fact, she never actually made it out of the castle last night. She was actually picked up by the castle guards and taken to the prisons. Apparently, they found her in the kitchens early the next morning. And, once they collected her, they realized she was a bit frazzled, and the way she was talking and things, and so they took her down to the prisons, and she's been there since.
Yeah, she's crazy.
That is fortunate news.
Indeed, Arthur. Well done, lad.
I very quietly take 3 gold coins so he doesn't see, and I just kind of rotate them on the table and pat and look at Vin.
I kind of give him a nod. Well done, my lad. Good job.
You see he smiles and he nods. Yes. So we're pretty sure that she went there to speak with Sybil. And, I hope it's okay. But then we talked with Sybil, too. I made sure me and the guys, we talked with Sybil. And, apparently the woman, Minnie, she had given a letter that was really hastily scrawled to Sybil. So we told Sybil to give us the letter, and she gave us a whole lot of hassle. And, when we demanded the letter, she started tearing it up before she would give it to us. So we took it out of her hands as best we could, but it was already pretty torn up. But best we could piece together, it looks like she was trying to send out word that, one of the members of this council is actually, what words did she use? A devil from the underworld, I think is what she said.
Yes.
People will say anything.
That's what she was spouting last night when she attacked Council Dawn Guard here. That's exactly the things that she was yelling at us. She had her roped down to the bed, and when I came upon her, she was striking her down with her sword. She nearly killed her. As you can see, Serena is still recovering from some of her wounds.
Arthur nods. Yeah, so, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to just keep her in the prisons for a while?
Did you find out who she meant to send the letter to?
Well, I did ask around a little bit about that, see if anybody could recognize the who she was sending this letter to. There wasn't exactly like a name or anything, but, again, I hope you won't be upset, but I inquired about some of my sources, and, there's supposed to be one of these temples of Kureakin that is actually in the Five Peaks. I've got a feeling, based on doing some dig work, that that's where she actually came from.
Good old gumshoe work. That's good work.
She clearly needs to be Locked up for the criminally insane.
Yeah,
come
she
on,
can't be
devil.
released. She tried to attack people in their
Devils.
sleep.
Who
It
would
was an
ever say
attempted
such a thing?
assassination attempt, yes. All right, Arthur. Well, put her in some form of solitary confinement. Um, let her recover, get her food and water, of course. We don't want to create a negative reputation for ourselves. And then perhaps maybe some of us council members will go down and have a discussion with her ourselves. And, well, you can come with us, Arthur, because the information you found out has been impressive, to say the least.
He smiles and nods. Okay, okay. So then I'll just keep her where she is now. We won't have her processed yet. We'll just wait till you say one way or the other then. And yeah, I know exactly where she's at. I'll make sure she's moved to solitary confinement. And well, you just let me know when you want to speak with her, and we'll make sure we arrange that, my lord.
Just be careful. She was, if anyone's a devil, it's her. She was glowing. And there were things happening, so she can probably do magic. So I would try to keep that in mind.
He nods. Yes, that's true. We think she might be dangerous, a little bit off her rocker, perhaps. But I have to tell you, when we seized her in the kitchen, she didn't really put up any kind of fight. She kind of looked at us really intently for a moment, and she said, "No, none of you are creatures." So she like just let us take her into custody. So I don't know. Maybe something in her head's just not working right.
Yeah, and you never know when that can flip. One day you could be a normal creature, and the next it's some creature she wants to kill. So don't let down your guard with that one. She's dangerous.
He nods. Yes, counselor. I'll make sure that all the guys know this.
Good work, Arthur. That'll be all. You're dismissed.
Thank you, my lord. And you see he turns and makes his way back towards the doors.
When he leaves, I'll look and be like, That's a good soldier right there. I like that kid. He's a good guy.
Yeah, we know.
Uh, I,
Perhaps
sorry, you go, Celine.
I was going to say perhaps this helps solve our problem a little bit. Perhaps we can take Miss West's offer as a per diem and let her demonstrate her abilities on this case.
What a blessing in disguise, yes?
I don't
But
think
also,
Arthur should be there, though.
No, you start talking about undead and our party members, that stuff gets out.
Yeah, because that'll be if we get her to tell the truth. And he like glances over at Serena. We know what the truth is, and if Arthur hears that, it might be bad.
Maybe I should look into a cure for my condition.
We will definitely look into that if that's what you would like, Serena. But you're right, we won't allow Arthur in the room, but having him come along with us will show the respect that we have for him and the job that he completed. He can wait outside and we'll have him as a personal bodyguard over the room while everything is conducted or something along those lines.
All right. So I think we let her stew for 3 days, and then we call in the pro when she comes to see us.
Sounds like a plan to me.
I will just go ahead and say this here because I know nobody's listening, but I don't think she's an evil person. And yes, I know what she did was not in our best interest, but I think that's somebody you would want to persuade to your side. She's pretty strong.
Plexo has already mentioned that we're aware of Serena's condition. So, with this, it's primarily a two-part scenario, I guess you could say. One of which is to not allow some kind of blasphemous word to just start spreading super fast around town about some undead being on the council. And two, like you said, they're not necessarily evil. And if they're from the Five Peaks, then maybe we could have a way to learn more about that realm from them. But either way,
Right. But if you take somebody to go out and potentially torture her and everything, your chances of bringing her over to your side are going to be gravely
you,
Wait,
diminished.
you
I think Didn't she? She didn't say torture. She said she has a
She's,
way
yeah,
with her
she.
words.
You
is what
guys
she
keep
kept
saying
Brought a
torture.
whip in here. She brought a whip in here. I mean, what do you
Yeah,
think? What do you
She's
think
wearing
her
black
way is?
latex.
I don't think
Yeah,
she's a
maybe it's
torturer. I think
She
she's
only tortures
definitely.
if she's hired to do that job. You know
Let's
what I
do
mean?
Okay.
this then. Here's my recommendation. We'll talk to her first before you add this other person in here to the mix. When I stopped fighting her and everything, she stopped. She seemed confused. I just get the impression she's just, misguided.
And even this torturer lady, we'll call her because I forgot her name already. But she even said, "Tell me how level of interrogation you want me to go." I'm sure she just uses words like she said. I don't think she's
We,
gonna torture anybody.
It would
it's
be
a per,
helpful to observe her methods to make sure that we're not, you know,
and
the bad
also
guys.
Excited class.
the information that she would procure we already know, so it would be a good confirmation of her skills in doing so. We have, we know Serena's condition more and better than anyone.
You're gonna make your own decision, but I'm just saying that I think that she could be a potential ally if you talk to her first. But
If she tells the truth, she'll be a potential ally. That's true.
Now,
yeah,
I'm not in the. I want you to be clear with and understand here, Tavarda. I'm not in the business of becoming a ruler that tortures his prisoners. I have no intention of doing that.
It's up to
sure,
her.
whatever. All I'm saying is that I'm just telling you I think we should talk to her first before you make any other decisions. You just said that you were thinking about sending her out there first. I'm just giving you another alternative.
Agreed. No, we will talk to her first without Arthur around, and then if we don't get what we want, then we could test our new toy.
Huzzah! Perhaps, Tannen, before we let in the general practitioners, I could go and relieve myself and have a quick smoke.
Excellent idea.
Lord Tannen nods in agreement, and he tells the staff outside it'll be about 15 minutes or so. So, yeah, we'll see everybody back in 15 minutes, folks.
See you all in a bit.
Alrighty, we are back in the second half of our session. Team is still in the throne room. Let's get you back over there, team. All right, so as you guys have finished meeting with all of your private meeting requests, and you've had some other interesting developments here, particularly with Arthur and finding out what occurred with this random attacker from the previous night, you guys then put out the message that you're ready for your public petitioners. You notice that the doors to the throne room are opened, and within like 5 minutes or so, there starts like a tiny trickle of people that enter into the gallery on either side. You notice then that there's more of like a flood as more and more people are kind of coming in. You notice there starts off with like 4 guards on each side of the gallery, but you notice Lord Tannen, who is standing by the door still, he's kind of doing a quick head count, and then you see he puts out like a message out to the more lobby area outside the throne room, and you notice that at the end there ends up being 5 guardsmen on each side of the gallery, and it seems like maybe there's more people in the gallery than he really anticipated. Altogether, you're probably looking at somewhere in the realm of 40 to 50 people on either side in the gallery. You notice there's a good mix of people here, men and women. They all look to be what you might call of the upper crust of society. They all look to be dressed nicely. Some of them you presume are nobles. Some may just be merchants or well-connected people. People who are essentially welcomed in the court, have your reputation here, that sort of thing. There's not a ton, as you guys know from your court budget, there's not a ton of like amenities here and things, so it's pretty bare bones. You do notice that there's a couple people kind of running back and forth with water or wine, that kind of thing, but they're all trying to be very circumspect and quiet as they attend to the people in the gallery. And then you notice Lord Tannen looks up towards you once everybody kind of settles in, and it seems as though things are good for the moment. He then has the doors closed, and it seems this is everybody that's going to be let in. And you notice that at the far back of the room, it looks like the gathering of the public petitioners here. And he looks up to you then, and he says, "My lord, are you ready for the first petitioner?"
Aye, Lord Tannen. I am.
All right, and you notice the petitioners, as they get up and start speaking, you notice for some of them, this feels like a rehash of a lot of the things that you have already discussed. And I think you guys made your opinions pretty strong. So for some of these, I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. So Benedict Drake comes up. He's the innkeeper who wanted to honor Vin by naming his newly built inn after Vin. Much like you suspected, this doesn't seem like a great fit. He said he wanted to name it the Golden Boy Inn. So after listening to him, you guys once again kind of say, thank you for the honors and so forth, but perhaps name it after Vin's brother, or name it like the Brothers Hold or something along those lines, that it doesn't directly reflect on Vin. Mr. Drake seems okay with this. Any specifics you guys want to mention here before he moves on? If
No,
not,
but
yep, go ahead.
Adam, yeah, not in regards to this, but just to say that Tavard's going to be in full observation mode. Just to look out for threats, and if something does happen, he will shield our buddy there, Mr. Vin, in
Fair
case something
enough.
happens. So,
All right,
Serena emphasizes that to honor the name of Vin's late brother is a great honor.
Excellent. All right. So after each one of these ones that we do fairly quickly, I will just say, I'll give you guys a moment after I'm done speaking. If there's something specific you want to pipe in, please do that quickly. If you wish to do something more elaborate, just type in chat, say I have a response, and then I'll slow down and give you time for that as well. So Mr. Drake goes by pretty quick. Next up is Roger Montague. This was the sailor who's looking for a ship. Eventually, you learn, because didn't originally tell you this, that he is looking for a particular type of ship that would run you 12 gold bars. You guys had previously said you did not want to spend much money here, so I'm assuming once again that you thank him for his time, but you're not wanting to invest at this time. All right, moving on next, we have Miss Katrine McKinnon. She is the one who said she wants permission to target merchants. You're somewhat surprised, maybe not totally surprised, because Lord Tannen said based on her writing, it seemed like she was really young. When you look at her, she looks like a teenager, and she says she wants permission to target merchants on the road because she says she wants to make sure that everything is on the up and up. Vin, go ahead and give me a blind check here as our resident rogue.
Sure thing. Because I got it, I'll throw inspiration on it too, okay?
Okay. Okay, yeah, you notice she says some things that seem kind of strange to you. You pick up some mentions that you realize she's like doing thieves' cant, but it seems like either the way she's doing it is really off, or maybe it's more of like a local thing. You're not really sure. You can't really put two and two together. But yeah, after she is done laying out her request, your response is.
Petitioner McKinnon, although I sympathize with your efforts to keep our streets clean, I have to ask, due to your age, why would you take on such a dutiful task? What's your purpose to gain from it?
You see, she kind of looks around for a bit, looking almost like she's a little bit lost in the grandeur, and then she stops and like refocuses herself, and she says, "Well, if everybody doesn't do their part, then these criminals, they just kind of run roughshod over everything. And everybody, no matter how small, can pitch in to keep things righted."
I see. And these criminals, you've had personal run-ins with them, because threats to our land we should take seriously.
Oh, I'm sure most of us, maybe not in this room, but outside of this room, most of the regular folk have. Yes, they happen here and there quite often. We can say that a lot of money is being changed hands here with the logging business, but that has also brought in some folks that aren't have the best of minds around, and yeah, unfortunately, it makes things not good around here.
In the roundabout way in my thieves' cant, I'm going to say essentially the message I want to convey is I understand you more than you think I do. So I'll say, like I'll like kind of stand up and say, I once met a gilded lily, just like you. And he'll kind of turn and look at her. But that's neither here or there. I've got to know, Miss McKinnon. How long have you been a resident of Cariele, or Carolinian itself? Are you from here?
You notice some of the people in the gallery kind of looking and kind of like whispering to one another as maybe they're not totally following what you're saying here. And you notice she nods. Oh, I grew up here. I actually grew up in Mountain's Edge, but then I moved to Carolinian about 3 years ago.
I see. Well, the council and I have already discussed the matter that you brought before us, and we will take into consideration what you have laid out before us. But we'll have to decline you specifically having the ability to strip people of their merchandise and deem it right or wrong, Miss McKinnon. However, the problem that you have brought our attention to will be addressed, and we thank you for bringing that problem to our attention.
She seems a bit disappointed, but she accepts your answer, and she is quickly shuffled out the door. All right.
Can I have Tannen kind of come up to me? Can I like wave him over to come up for like a quick word?
You can, yep. You'll notice that he approaches, and again, you can hear now that you're not like publicly giving a speech in this area, the chatter among the gallery kind of picks up as everybody is having like side conversations about what's occurring here. But yeah, you notice Lord Tannen approaches, and he leans in forward towards you. Yes, my lord?
Lord Tannen, I picked up pretty peculiar messages from her. She was speaking in a specific dialect that I'm familiar with. Please have her watched and tell me where her whereabouts go.
He gives you a nod and he says, I will do what I can. I'm afraid I'm a bit stretched thin. I wish I could do all of these tasks for you. It's not a matter of compensation, of course, my lord. It's just my time. Really, having somebody to take care of these duties would be best, but I will do what I can for now.
Who can take care of these duties, Lord Tannen?
I think you're going to need to hire someone in particular, unless one of your trusted counselors you think could fill this role.
She says she's a resident here, so how about we just get her address and confirmation of where she lives in some roundabout way. But she should be kept an eye on. If we can continue.
What I can do.
And I'll kind of nod back to everyone at the council table and get myself ready for the next petitioner.
All right, so after Katrain, next up is Clifton Farlight, who was the bard that you guys had spoke with. He comes before you and he kind of like plays this little sound on this little tiny flute that he has. He kind of plays it at a distance. Yeah, it's not really even music. It's kind of like these sounds that are punctuated by the words that he's using. It certainly doesn't sound great. But this is the one who wanted his friend released from prison. He kind of dances around exactly what it was that his friend was guilty of, and he just asks that you really look into it and try to have him released as soon as you possibly can. So you guys likely just, tell him you'll look into this. He seems like he's okay with this and goes on his way. Next up is Destrian Light. This is the individual who wants to be hired as a bodyguard. As he approaches, you notice he is a very large man. He looks to be of a Weirian descent. He's about 6'6", though. He's just an absolute massive guy. You can see he's got corded muscles all down his arms. As he approaches, he looks towards you, essentially explains he's been doing this for about 20 years or so, and he definitely wants to do his part to protect this land, and he would be honored to be a personal bodyguard either to the regent or any of the counselors or anybody else that you deem necessary. His fee is essentially negligible, meaning this would be included in your domain maintenance if you wish to hire him.
In terms of the domain maintenance part, is there a specific amount? Is it a quarter gold bar? What are we
No.
looking at?
So think of it as the maintenance covers a lot of little odds and ends, and he falls into odds and ends. So mechanically, no cost.
Sold.
Just add a character real quick. We could have him hired as a bodyguard for Vin's mom.
Yep. Or Vin, for when we're gone.
Does somebody want to do like an inside check to just see how we do? Adam, I'd like to go ahead and do a blind check.
Please throw
Rolling
a
dice.
check, Tabard.
I was waiting for someone with better dice rolls, but you know.
Okay, so I will say with that check, you get the impression that he's not really comfortable in this area, like with all these people around. He looks a little bit nervous, a little bit fidgety. He seems to be a man of few words, and obviously he looks like he really can pull his weight as far as appearances go. You don't get any strong, feeling one way or the other about, is he trustworthy or anything like that from this brief interaction.
Okay, so I didn't roll a 1. That's good. I can. I'll say I can talk to him later if he wants to be a guard or something.
I'll nod towards Tavard and look towards the man and say, Mr. Destrian, we're appreciative of you making your way into this council in front of all these people, and I think we would just need a further discussion with you, perhaps outside of being around everyone on the specifics, but I think we could see bringing you under our employment.
He nods. I will leave my contact information with your staff. I look forward to you reaching out to me.
And I'll just give him a nod.
All right, and then Mr. Light makes his way out. He is quickly followed then by Mrs. Lindsay Darkdraft, and this is the female Brecht explorer. So you notice she enters. This is probably the first time any of you, based on your upbringing, have seen an actual Brecht person. So as remember, the Brechts are essentially north-central Cerilia, which is a whole lot of miles east of where you guys currently are, way past even like the Gorgon's Crown. So there's not a whole lot of Brechts in this land. But she approaches and she relays what you've already learned, that she wants 2 gold bars to fund an expedition into Markazor. She says that she doesn't want to reveal specific details in a public venue like this, but she thinks there might be a path through the Stone Crown Mountains into the Lost Realm. And she says if you give her that money, she will confirm or whether that path does indeed exist.
I know when we talked about this in the council that some of you guys had a question, so does anybody want to inquire?
I've forgotten what the question is.
I know one of you guys said, well, what does this do for us? Like, will there be a return on investment? And essentially the answer is no, except for the knowledge of whether that path exists.
Didn't we want to inquire with this guy about being a Brecht and how he came about this knowledge? Well, Vin will kind of stand and look towards him and say, what's his name? Darkdraft?
Mrs. Lindsay Darkdraft.
Okay, Mrs. Darkdraft. I have to admit, you're the first human of Brecht descent that I've had the pleasure of meeting, and we of Cariele welcome you into our court. I'm glad to have heard about a potential endeavor into these mountains that could be, well, so prosperous in terms of information. But I have to inquire, how did you come across this information?
Oh, my lord, it is quite a long tale. I'm a sailor by trade, and the short version is I sailed all of the high seas and learned as much as I could on the water until one chance encounter with the serpent. I was lucky to get away free with my life, but decided then solid ground was the way forward for me. Since then, I've been looking into all the mysteries of the land. Much in the lands of the Brechts has already been explored, as you can imagine, but the ruins of the Empire here, well, there is still quite a lot of small caves and ruins and other things, and I had always heard tales of the Stone-Crowned Mountains and how they were impenetrable, and I looked to see if that was true or not. So I looked into it, spoke with many well-knowledged individuals, and they believe that there is indeed a path, though it is difficult to find and difficult to traverse, and I aim to see whether this is true or not. Imagine if such a path is there. You could be under attack without even knowing it if your enemies discover this path as well. Better that you know of it and try to take precautions before they.
Aye. But you're asking the court to supply you with 4,000 gold pieces for this expedition. What would that money buy you?
I would need to hire training staff, get a lot of good gear, including mining gear, rope climbers kits. I would need to make sure that I have some very skilled individuals amongst the team, both knowledgeable in underground traversing as well as the mountains, how to survive at high altitudes. We would need to make sure we have the appropriate mounts and all mount type feed and accessories that we would need. And then of course we need some fighting men in case we run into issues. So skilled individuals with blade and bow and spell that would protect us when we find out what is actually there.
And if you're coming to the court of Cariele, then I assume that this passage may lie within our domain. Which province is the crossing within?
Well, I suspect that based on this information that it is actually in the province of Mountain's Edge. As you know, only that province links Cariele to the Lost Realm. Therefore, I believe it is there.
I'm aware. I grew up in Mountain's Edge. I grew up with my back to those mountains. I hunted those lands. In
Then,
fact,
my lord, I apologize for interrupting you, but then you must understand how important it is. If you grew up in the shadow of those mountains, then you know that was always a bulwark for you, for everybody in those lands. But what if it isn't? What if there is actually a way for forces to move from the Lost Realm into Mountain's Edge? It changes everything. Don't you wish to know that?
you are aware that the Lost Realm is under the Gorgon's control.
Even
seem
more
well-versed.
reason to know whether or not it's a danger to you and to this land.
Your points are well heard, Lindsay, and received. For the council to be able to supply you with such wealth for this expedition, we will need to talk amongst ourselves further. I'm sure you can understand this, and perhaps you could give us a little bit more details outside of public council of exactly what it is you need, their prices, what you're looking for, and how you're going to find it, so we can be sure that our money is well spent. I'm sure you understand this.
I can put together somewhat of an itemized list for you if you wish and bring that to your staff, but I must be moving on before too long, so I would need an answer within the fortnight, my lord, if that is okay.
We can agree to those terms. Thank you, Miss Dogdraft.
Excellent. And you see she quickly makes her way out as well. All right, after Miss Darkdraft, next up is Oren Nelianther, who turns out to be, as you guys have already been informed, a half-elf male juggler. You notice he kind of comes in and puts on this little tiny show where he has these different like fuzzy balls in hand and kind of just juggles them. And you notice he's doing this kind of with one hand, and suddenly he throws like two more out of the other hand sleeve, and now he's actually juggling 5 balls at once and speaking to you at the same time. A couple of times he even takes his eyes off the balls in the air and looks at you all and still manages to keep these balls in the air. As he does so, he says, "I entertain, I bring joy to your lives, I have everything to go, and in fact I used to serve Her Majesty in Thosone, and she was really grateful for my talents, and now it is time to spread my talents to the wider world, and that is why I bring them here to you, my lords and ladies. Look at this, see the 5 balls, watch them move, which way are they going to go? What? Whoop, no, it didn't hit the floor, nope, see, whoop, you see he kicks one back up in the air, there it is, and here we go, and then they go right back into the sleeve, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you see he does this elaborate flourish and bow.
How are the crowds reacting?
You notice them kind of watching him oddly, like they're not sure, like they didn't come here to be entertained. They weren't thinking this was like a festival or anything like that. So they're kind of eyeing him. You see a couple people kind of like clapping quietly. Others are kind of looking at each other, getting the impression like, are they supposed to be laughing or clapping? They're not sure.
I kind of smile amongst the performance. What was it you were inquiring for your price, Orin?
Well, my lord, not only am I a great entertainer and fount of knowledge and information, I also am a really good listener, and with such skills, I would ask a modest sum of 5 gold pieces per day.
I look around awkwardly.
For juggling?
My lord counselor, it is not just juggling. Think about it. Anybody you speak with that you want to make sure is having a good day or has the best terms possible for you, you bring them before me or send me to them, either way, and I will put them in a fantastic mood before they speak to you. Think of me as the grease in the realm of diplomacy.
All right, Adam, you ready? Here comes the question, but you get Google up. All right, tell me a joke.
A joke? Well, that is not quite my talent there, I'm afraid, my lord. And I've also found that sometimes with jokes you offend sooner than you meant to.
Well, that's a dumb thing to say.
No offense, Adam, but yeah. That...
No,
You s-
it's Blixel versus the juggler, it's not me versus it.
I know.
No, I apologize. He looks over to Blixel. Well, of course I have jokes, but you don't know people's temperament and desire and knowledge and appetite for humor. You have to learn that before you just give a joke.
Can you juggle swords?
Well, I could, I suppose, but that is quite farther dangerous and not nearly as entertaining to the people.
If you juggle swords, I'll hire you out of my own personal finances.
You notice he kind of smiles and scratches at his chin a little bit. And how many swords juggling do you require, my counselor?
Well, you did 5 regular things, right?
5 swords in the air? And when we say swords, we mean any length of sword, I assume, right?
Down to a dagger, I suppose.
5 daggers, absolutely. Well, once I have mastered the skill, shouldn't take me more than a few days, I shall return to present myself to the council.
Oh, I thought you could just do it now. Huh.
Sure that I could, but I wouldn't want to, in a 1 in a million chance, accidentally make a mistake that leaves even a trip of blood on your fine carpet.
And besides that, if you took out daggers right now, I think we'd have a problem with the guards for not searching this one too.
It's like, haha, we got you, we tricked you, get him.
Yeah, he has to reveal all the hidden daggers.
All right, well, how many domain points would you grant us if we hired you?
So that's a meta game thing. He can't answer that one for you.
Okay, all right.
I'll say, all right, we'll master that skill and come back and present it to us, and we'll gladly receive your talents.
He does a deep bow and he turns, and as he's walking away, you notice on this like little half cloak that he has, it's got like the depiction of a smiling face, and as he's moving with this shifting, it's almost like the mouth is opening and closing. Ah, ha, ha, ha.
Guy's sort of on my corner.
All right, after the juggler is out of the way, the next up is Miss Faye Cromwell, and you guys will recall this was the weaver who had lost some money, a total of 31 gold pieces due to robbery, and she thought that the guards hadn't done well enough. She pleads her case once again, and you guys said you wanted to essentially direct her to the local law enforcement. This is not something that really rises to the level of council business, and that if, she should take it to them, and you will certainly look into her other concerns about the guards not doing what they're supposed to. She seems maybe a little bit still angry with this. She's not outwardly hostile or anything like that, but you could tell she was hoping for more here, and she will eventually be escorted out as well. Next up is the armorer, Ariel Bertinal. And when she arrives, this is probably one of the few elves that you have actually seen so far. She is standing in the back of the room with much of the other individuals. And you notice that as she approaches, she has nothing in her hands, but you do notice that Lord Tannen here is holding on to this very well-crafted silver, what it looks to be made of silver, suit of armor. It looks like almost like a breastplate would be your guess. You notice that she walks forward very tall and straight-backed, and you see as she does so, Lord Tannen kind of approaches with the armor, and she motions towards the armor. My lords, you indicated you wanted to see what my skill set was. Here is an example of my crafts as you requested. You will see that it is of the utmost quality. Give it to anyone on your staff, perhaps the dwarf. They, I should say, have quite the eye for skill, though maybe not the temperament needed to wield this type of armor, but eye for talent nonetheless.
Shade!
She came out
Shade!
swinging.
As I have asked and I presented to your staff, there are many in your city here who are very terrible craftsmen. They are toothless okies who sit on the corner hammering away at raw metal as though they have any talent whatsoever, and then they sell these goods to people in your town. And it seems as though you are getting an absolutely terrible reputation by allowing these goods to be sold. If instead you leave the skill of armor smithing here to those with true talent who have years and in some cases centuries dedicated to the art, I think you would be much better served, and everybody coming to purchase things here in Carolinian would notice the high quality of armor that is allotted here.
On this armor here, show us your mark.
You see she looks towards you as the armor is like kind of on this table in front of you. Am I permitted to approach you?
I'll look at Vin.
I'll nod.
I'll go
That's what
down.
we asked for.
Yeah, I'll go down and I want her to show the mark on this item, and then I'm going to ask her to show me a mark on something that she has in her possessions.
Oh, another trap.
So as you bring the breastplate towards her and you ask for the mark, you see she takes it out of your hands. You notice up in the corner, basically right where the metal piece would be attaching to like the shoulder bone, you see she puts her finger there and then she puts like a cupped mouth towards it and like putting hot breath on it, she goes, and as she does this, you see she rubs it a bit, and now you notice there's these like two little kind of inverted X's kind of deal. And she looks and she says, there is the sign of my mark. Visible only once the armor is heated up.
Do you have anything on you with your mark that you carry as personal?
You see she holds her arms out. You can see these sort of little kind of like decorative straps on her arms. They're metal, but not like solid metal. Think of this almost as like a kind of like a flake metal. And you can see that there's all these decorative flower-like inscriptions in them. And she says, yes, on this.
Blow on it.
Does she show that as well, Adam?
She eyes you strangely, Dean, from across tavern, but she does repeat this exercise, and yes, it matches.
All right. I'm going to nod.
Well, at least I believe it's your mark and you didn't just buy this from somebody else.
I would never buy armor in this city. None of it is good quality except for mine.
All right, I'm going to ask her to step
go
back,
ahead.
and then I'm going to go back up to where Vin is, because I've already given my opinion on this one here.
She does so.
I'm going to look at her and say, Miss Burton, the council and I had a great discussion about what you brought before us before we met you. That's why we asked for you to bring your proof of quality, I guess, of your craftsmanship. And although I could say that that is a beautiful piece, Tavard himself has given his nod of approval. I have to say, although I don't like you insulting everyone in Carolinian, calling them sour-mouthed oafs who just hammer away, the problem is a pertinent one. We don't want shoddy equipment sold in our lands, and we don't want people getting away with scamming other people with their money. If someone wants to purchase armor or a blade to defend themselves in their home, they should be able to rely on said weaponry and armor. So, the council and I have come up with an idea, and we would like your help with it. if you can agree to it. The idea we had is to come up with a way of qualifying and giving out certifications of qualify. And I guess you could say it's kind of like showing that you have proven your craftsmanship. Showing this certificate in your shop will allow petitioners within our province to understand that you have proven your worth as a smith. We will need to hire a few smiths as, I guess you could say, master smiths to be sure to check the quality of this work. This is why we're going to need your help to be able to set up such a program. I cannot issue a law so willy-nilly, outright declining people who quote unquote suck. You must understand this.
It seems to me, my lord, if you are going to hire master smiths to review each piece of equipment that is crafted, the cost of that equipment would skyrocket. Who would be able to afford such things? If you instead did what I asked and allowed only those who have proven their talent to sell the craft, then you would have no increased cost of your own.
Perhaps you misunderstood me, my lady. We are not going to individually review each craft, but the craftsmen themselves, or craftswoman in your case, or any other cases similar to yours. At the end of the day, we want people to be able to go into a shop knowing that they'll be able to purchase something of high quality, or at least reliable quality. We are not going to inspect every piece of equipment, but we are going to inspect the people who makes the equipment. We would like your help in making sure we come up with a good program to make sure that this is seen through correctly. And yes, some wares may increase in price, but by doing so, you'll have people pay you more money for better work. The reputation will then double and triple and increase across our province of these great smiths and what they offer our lands.
That would be an
Would you?
acceptable program, my lord. I would be happy to be participating in such an activity. My shop here is in Cerilia, and you can find me at any time you wish.
We'll reach out to you with correspondence soon, and we'll get started on the project right away. Tavard here, a council member that I trust very deeply with his knowledge of weaponry, will also like to assist firsthand on coming up with the program, so you'll probably be working closely with him.
Voluntold!
She nods and she motions with her hand towards the armor. My lord, keep this breastplate armor as a souvenir. I hope it will serve you well, and if you should choose to wear it yourself, I would be honored, and you will see that it will keep you protected better than anything you can find here.
I'll smile and thank her, and I'll take it gratefully.
She
Yeah,
smiles and does a very subtle nod, not a bow, and certainly not very deep at all. And she says, I look forward to hearing from you.
yeah. Next time, bring bracers of defense, you damn woman.
She will then turn and moves pretty quickly and lithely out of the room. All right, so let's see. That was Eridal, and then next up is Emmeline Cleves, who is the soldier looking for a promotion. As you notice, Emmeline, as she enters, she approaches. She's a red-haired soldier. You can see she is wearing her armor, but no weapons at her side, as she's not a castle guard, so she has been stripped of her weapons. You notice as she approaches, she essentially mentions exactly what you already know. She's very careful not to directly insult her superior, but she essentially says that the leadership of the guard could benefit from a review. Like, she's very careful how she words this, and she suggests that you get involved in reviewing the leadership as soon as you can, because how critical it is that the safety of the city, and she goes on and on. But you can tell she's like politically making sure not to be like, hey, my boss is too old, he sucks.
I see. Could you give us a bit of a description on how she looks like in terms of maturity? Like, is she pretty young, or does she
No,
seem,
she's
older
middle-aged
than
for
us?
sure. Yeah, she's definitely older than most of you. You would probably peg her somewhere mid to late 30s, maybe 40s, something like that. She's a sturdy-looking woman, and she looks very seriously minded. You don't see like any hint of a smile or a smirk. She's just kind of stone-faced.
Is her uniform well kept and tucked in at the appropriate places?
She looks like the pristine image of a soldier.
Her name was Emmeline Cleves, right?
Yep, Emmeline Cleve. Yep.
Soldier, I have to say, it takes great courage to step up to the council with this kind of discussion, and I have to commend you for that. It's brave.
He gives you a salute with an arm to the heart.
However, the chain of command exists for a reason, and although at times you may find that that chain of command is not suitable to all actions, it must be followed, and you understand this as a soldier of Cariele, correct?
She nods.
In the future, please be sure that any request you make go through proper clearance, even ones that may seem harder to obtain. I ask you do this, and if those means do not work, then you may proceed to bring it to the council's attention. Now,
Can I chime in on something and add somebody can
go
correct me
ahead.
if I'm wrong. This is Bill
Sure.
talking, not Trevard talking. I thought that her immediate person was her person that she's looking to have potentially dismissed, and the fact is that there is nobody above him now, and I thought that was it, and so she came directly because there was not that other person, but I could be wrong.
I think
No,
you're correct.
You are
you are
correct.
correct. Yeah, Vin just wanted to reiterate the point to her.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Thanks.
He'll look at her and say, now, with that being said, I understand the reason why you're standing before us today. Because the chain of command is broken, in your personal opinion. And due to the change in commission of this province and its regency, I can understand why you're here. So, like I
You
said,
notice
I
as you're
commend your bravery.
speaking, she looks a bit like uncomfortable. Again, you notice, there's like 100 people or so between the galleries, and as you're kind of speaking bluntly, you notice her like she was trying to really beat around the bush here, knowing this is like a public venue. And as you're speaking real bluntly, you see she kind of squirms a little bit, but she is still eyeing you. But you can see her face gets a little bit red.
Would you allow her to get closer, and I'll act as guard, and Serena, of course.
Sure. Miss Cleves, please approach the bench.
She does so, and she says, "It's Mrs. Cleves, but yes, my lord." And she approaches.
In a more, less pronounced tone, I'm going to look at her and kind of give her a nod and say, what you've brought to our attention, we have taken into great consideration. We have interviewed other people. We have talked to other people about what is going on. We are going to take measures.
You notice she kind of eyes you and she says, "I hope that you do, my lord. That seems, if you forgive me for being blunt, that's not as direct as I would like to hear, but as long as you are confirming you understand my concerns, then I leave the decision up to you, as is your right."
In a more pronounced tone, I'll say, aye, we understand what you bring before us, and we thank you.
She nods and says, "Dismissed?"
Oh, one moment. And I'm gonna whisper in your ear, and I'm gonna say, "Did you want to tell her that you were?" I don't remember the title that Serena was getting. That's important for this role. But did you want to tell her who the new person, so that way there she knows who to go to?
Sure. And I'll stand at this point. Mrs. Cleves, and the rest of the galley. I know that when my uncle left this court, there was a few positions that were left open. Positions that needed to be filled, and they have been done. Not all, but a great amount of them. Currently, we are without an acting seneschal. someone to oversee a lot of these sensible issues. So, I would like to introduce you to two acting seneschals who will kindly take on the position. This would be a good chance for them to say a few words about themselves. First, Seneschal Serena Dawnguard, also a councilwoman. Serena?
Greetings, everyone. Pleasure to meet you all. I look forward to filling this role until another can be appointed, and we'll keep things running smoothly here in the castle and beyond.
And we also have Seneschal Celine, also Grand Archivist. Celine?
We will do our best for the good of the realm. Also, what Serena said. Thank you. Bye.
Vote of confidence there. Woohoo!
Thank you,
Alright.
Mrs. Cleaves. Thank you, galley members.
You notice Emmeline Cleaves looks at both the pronounced seneschals and gives like a firm salute to each of you. Once this is complete, she moves back to the not so close position and then does a formal salute back to you, Vin, before turning and exiting out of the throne.
I'll match her salute.
I like her.
Yeah, me too,
Feisty.
bro.
All right, and just a couple of more public petitioners on the docket here. Next up is Gavin Boulderdown. This is the representative from the Northern Reformed Church. You notice he is standing in the back and he's holding on to the small prayer book. He approaches and introduces himself to the group and to the counselors. He does so quickly but respectfully. You notice he speaks in very flowery, religious-like language, talking often about how the light of luck will bless all in this area and the future of Cariele is bright. And he kind of does a lot of these kind of like flowery speeches. And he says, and we look forward to anointing you in the light of ceremony, my lord, whenever is convenient for you.
I kind of smile when I step down and I begin to approach him. And I reach out my hand and kind of give him like a very kind and like welcoming handshake. And I say, we gracefully accept your blessing. And we would love for this anointment to happen at your convenience.
You see, he's smiling and he looks very proud of the fact that you've given him such a personal recognition. And you notice the gallery on both sides also seems to be very happy of this endeavor, remembering that the vast majority of your followers are worshippers of ceremony. And he is very happy about this endeavor. He is kind of, again, very flowery language, thanks you profusely multiple times. And he says, I will have my people speak with your people, and we will find a time that works for both of us. I look forward to a bountiful relationship between our two groups.
Finn will thank him with as flowery language as he can surmount, and then go back and sit down on the throne chair.
All right, and then Mr. Boulderdown exits as well. And then the last petitioner on your docket is the shortest petitioner on your docket. As you notice, a small goblin woman kind of waddles up this area, and you hear her going and kind of like hawking up in her mouth. And then you see she looks at you. Oh, Lord! Yeah, Jizzlex, I'm the miner, and I'm looking to get the funding, because I can tell you there's this really good... And then she rattles off this information that you've already heard, which essentially is she's looking for you to give her half a gold bar to take an expedition into the Five Peaks, into the province of Punal, because she believes that there is a a particularly valuable vein of metal there, and she kind of rattles off a few details, namely that she doesn't expect really a whole lot of resistance, as the main population areas in Punal are more towards the south part or middle part of the province, and this vein has been found more in the northern part of the province, so they basically just have to cross the border, and she kind of like mentions this almost like they won't even know we're there.
Did she mention return on investment?
She did not, but she said she, wants this for expenses and she's saying she will bring back all of this metal to Carilia.
I think it's a deal, right? She's not asking all that much.
No. I mean, yeah, it is a deal, but no, you're right. She's not asking all that much.
Ask her about her credentials, maybe.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we wanted to know was the type of metal, and then she's entering into a new realm, so we wanted to discuss her being careful, right? Not to incite any domain-on-domain violence. Then we'll say, Giselex, we welcome you into our court. Thank you so much for approaching us with this endeavor you have mentioned. Could you tell us more about this metal? What value would it bring our province, and why exactly are you seeking it?
It's going to be worth a lot of money, of course. And what's the value? Well, it's a lot. And what does it do? Well, this metal is a particular type of iron. It is known to be way better with heat than a regular iron. This can get hotter than you ever would imagine.
We had a previous petitioner request a similar expedition. Maybe not a mining one, but one of just exploratory measures. Their fee was much larger than yours. Can you explain why it's so low?
I know Punal really well. I know the people there. I have friends. I have associates. It's going to be cheap. I'll do it on the cheap.
Does it seem like we're gonna get swindled, Adam? I don't know if I can discern that, but
Could do an insight
Uh,
check.
You can roll a blind check. I can't say that you're going to be able to determine if you're going to get swindled or not, but you might get a feeling about her one way or the other.
all right, I'll give you one.
You get no strong read on her.
Giselex, the council has spoken before about this endeavor, and we're interested in the valuable resources that may lie along our borders and beyond, obviously. We understand that Punal is under no strict leadership. This expedition of yours will not inquire or incur any violence upon our lands in retaliation for you taking this expensive metal, would it?
Not unless there's nothing else we can do. But if somehow we get attacked with overwhelming forces, we're not just going to run with our tails tucked between our legs. My people know how to fight.
I see. And the repercussions of that fight could lead to people of Cariele being attacked by marauders, bandits, potentially pissing off a war chief. That doesn't sound fun, does it?
It could also lead to you having some of the best iron to your career. And I heard that elven lady talk about how good she was. Imagine what she could do with this stuff.
The council has agreed that this expedition could be profitable to the nation, although I want to express to you the direct confrontation with anybody from Punal may lead to some domain-on-domain violence, which we do not want. Do you understand me, Gislex?
You see, she kind of looks at, yeah, I got you.
We will fund your expedition, as long as you can agree to these terms, that you will not incur the wrath of the war chief and piss them off enough to make them send an army upon us. But we would love to inquire this medal.
All right, give me the money and I'll get it going.
I smile and say, it doesn't quite work just like that, but we'll have our treasurer get you the funds you need, and we'll draw up paperwork that matches the request that you have, and we'll sign all documents that need to be signed, yada yada.
She gives you a toothy grin and a nod as she waddles back towards the door.
Finn kind of smiles.
All right, guys, so you've made it through your first day of petitioners, and you have received everybody that wished to be received. You know there will likely be many more petitioners, probably sometime between now and the next month. But for the moment, it seems as though your courtly duties have been fulfilled. You can see the gallery on both sides, eventually, again, chatting with one another, are escorted out as the throne room is eventually cleared. This probably takes a good half hour or so. Is there any last minute arrangements you would like to do before we move forward with you guys speaking with Mr. Serpentwind?
Isn't there a coronation happening at some point?
I believe you
No,
guys
remember-
decided not to do it right away.
Oh.
Yeah, we decided that it would just be the giveaway, and then we would hold an official thing at some other point, right?
Yep. Blixel wants to check out the armor.
That the
Yeah,
craftswoman made?
Yeah.
Sure. Do you have any talent with armor or any kind of background or that would give you any ability to determine like how good of quality this is?
No, just proficiency in heavy, light, and medium armor. But
All right, give me a blind check, please. Yeah, it's a breastplate.
Dang.
Vin will take a few minutes to try it on.
Let's see. Remind me of your height and weight.
Let's see. 6'2", 190. He's probably more than 190 to be honest. He's probably more like 220.
Especially eating all this good, high quality
Castle
food.
food.
Yeah,
so
he's
what I
probably
will
more like
say
220.
is you realize that this is kind of fitted for someone not as large as you. So as you try to get this fully upon you, you realize it kind of goes, let's say, to like your belly button as opposed to covering your entire torso. And you realize you're going to have to basically increase the size of the straps in order to get both sides of the breastplate on you.
A fixable thing for sure.
Hey,
That would definitely help Vin.
While you have it, even though it's not properly fitted, you want me to use my hammer to see how good it works?
I think I'm okay, Tavad. I've seen you smash people's skulls in.
I could hit the breastplate, depending on my rolls, of course.
I don't. Everybody else has armor, right? Dean, can you wear medium armor? You can't wear metal.
I don't wear any armor. He's wearing nice fine robes and he's holding on to a rod.
I see. Yeah. So, Vin will probably inquire with Mrs. Burdenall about getting it sized to him, Adam.
Okay, sure. You can leave a message for that for the armorer.
Yeah, it seems like we're gonna, be talking with him anyways about the certification thing. So, I just include that in the correspondence.
Okay,
And hey,
sure.
I'm a big boy.
You should put your family crest on it.
I don't know what my family crest is.
Don't? Well, maybe it's time to talk to your mother.
Mommy, what does my family quest look like?
All
Or
right,
just-
so as it relates to Mr. Serpentwind, you guys decided you were going to agree to go with him on this mission to locate these ruins. He had explained that anytime within like the next 5 days would be good for him. So obviously you guys have a few different things kind of, rolling around and your potential duties here. Today is the 21st of the month. The day is Brandlin. Do you guys have an idea of how long you want to wait before you go to Serpentwind? Or go with Serpentwind, I should say. And then I would also say we can kind of summarize these intermediate days pretty quickly. If you guys let me know how long you would like to wait before going.
Yeah, we can fast forward the. We need at least a day, so Vin can interview some adventurers to send on his way that Tannen bring in, and talk to, and maybe he'll have like a practice sparring match with them or something, and test their quality. But he'll at least spend a day making sure that the person that he's going to send with him is of worthy stature. So we don't necessarily have to dive into that, Adam, but I can use that as some of my backstory for my other character that I'm going to introduce.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I was thinking essentially what we would do is once you guys agree to go, I would have you introduce him, and you guys would be chatting a bit on the way. Because remember, this is about a day's journey, so you can certainly give them like a super high level summary of the new character that is introduced.
Sweet.
Do you want to go down to the prison and get that part taken care of? Because I don't think that'll be too long.
Of talking to. Well, let's let her sit for a day or two. Maybe we talk to her when we get back.
Okay, well, yeah. If
Oh, that's right. What's her name is leaving in like 5 days, ain't she? So
3
we would need to do that before we go. Well, maybe we let it sit for a day, and then we, like the next day or something, we go, and then so we should do that before we go on any kind of excursion.
Before we break from here, as then everyone shuffles away, I will have a word with everybody, and then I'll say, "You're right. This endeavor to deal with the guilds and solve the problems of the land is a long task. And I initially left my tribe. I did not have the plan for such a long endeavor, and here I sit as chief counselor. Back in my tribe, I have a handful of devout followers of the Olkin Grove and Eric, and I have a wife and a son. They are wanderers in the area, move about. Do you guys have enough empathy to see where I'm going with this?
Yes, my friend, you have another life quest to go on.
Well,
or to return to, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, so I am in a quandary here. I have a 2-year-old who's
Bring them along! You learn young!
learning to walk and throw daggers. I don't know. Do I invite them here? Do I forget
That's what I
about
thought
them?
you were gonna say. Move them into the castle, right?
And I also mentioned this outside of my character to not burden upon our mighty DM of anything special, because I'm sure nothing will be special of it, but I just can't play this character out of character right now. I can't play this character the way I built him, because he would definitely not want to run for a year to to do all this stuff if I have a family, right? Like, he's very he wants to go back. I if I'm playing him correctly.
Yeah, Brian, I'll just say that I played a Stars Druid, and then we wound up doing the campaign that we were, only doing dungeons, and I was like, my Star Druid would never be, in the dungeon for so long. He doesn't see the stars. So.
Yeah, but this is like a family, and his whole point, he got introduced to the group because he wanted Michael to do something. Now he realizes you could do something. So now, if there is traction here after a couple days, I have to. Dean has to make a decision what to do with his family, and he's going to mention this in this conversation.
So what I will just say from the DM level here, everybody has the same option that Dylan has here. Like, if you decide that your character is a counselor now and they say like, hey, I'm not going to adventure anymore because I'm a counselor, that's totally fine. You can essentially bring in your adventuring character, because what I'm trying to avoid is that it's just all council stuff, because I feel like people will get bored of that eventually. So I want to have a good mix between the council type sessions, the main actions, and then also adventuring. So if you prefer to have like a secondary PC that you take on adventures, you could certainly do that.
Well,
I've done that in like every campaign that I've played with
So-
Adam. Has brought
so
in
I'll,
that additional character.
I'll go back in character. Is is there a place for a handful of my followers to to come here in the safety of Carlinian?
Well,
Whoa, 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 whoa. First it was a wife and son. Now how many are we talking?
Well,
it's like
like I
6.
said, I have a handful of devout followers and fighters of Eric and Druid.
You bringing your damn trees
training.
too?
And I have a wife and a son who's 2 years old. That's heavy on my heart.
Well, I want to say 2 things. I want to say a portion of it out of character, and then I want to say a portion of it as Vin. So, out of character, Brian, I completely understand this. Like, I've definitely done this before. Obviously, you guys know me. I've gone through a fair share of characters. So, I've definitely created one that was outside of the realm of like what was going on, and put me in a situation that was like hard to role play it. And I completely understand where you're sitting at now. In response to that, though, you have to also think about the character you have made with this backstory. You have faced a real life problem that that character you created would have. It's a definite quandary whether somebody who left their tribe to better their land would commit to leaving that tribe to do so. So like the role playing implications of Dean in this situation could be a lot of fun if you took it in that route, right? Like strictly battling back and forth of like where your conflicted interest is. And in response to what you just said, Vin will say, um, well, obviously you could bring your family here. You could even let at least your family stay in the castle. In terms of your followers and whatnot, we could find a location for them, uh, rent a house or whatnot, or maybe a small plot of land outside. But Dan, I remind you, we came from a hamlet in Mountain's Edge that all the people left from. It's currently empty. You could send your people there, and it's less than a day's journey away.
Oh, that's very generous of you. Yeah, I sent a message earlier. I haven't heard anything back. I hope they're okay. Not only am I concerned about them, but also their safety. So, I do feel my efforts here are worthy of the end goals, and I believe in you guys, and I believe in my contributions here are important for my family and for the entire realm. I would also say I hate making characters, so I will play Dean, sorry, as much as I can. I just wanted to give options out there, kind of Adam too. Like, what are your thoughts? And kind of some little intimate conversation here between Dean and his droopy eyes and his concern for his family. And that's the bit all character development I want to bring.
I was just
Okay.
kidding, by the way. Bring everybody into the castle. There's plenty of rooms.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
there
you.
is a lot of house space right now, man. And to be honest, having some extra eyes on wouldn't be that bad.
Wow, that's a good idea. You're right, Serena. There are a lot of rooms here. I feel better just getting it off my chest.
I feel better when rooms aren't empty.
And Dean, the reason why I think so much of us outside of you, just the 5 of us, respect you is because before you, there was a man that I loved and trusted with my life, and he was always conflicted with his decisions. And it was mainly due to how he could best protect the people that he cares for most. And I have to say, you're very impressionable upon who he was as a character. So it would hurt us to lose you and the help that you could provide us.
Oh, it's an honor to hear that, my lord. I've sworn my fealty to this council and to this realm in our efforts to dismantle the guild. I'll have to give it much thought. All right, I've got off my chest. Thank you.
I also, I think Tannen forgot one of the petitioners. There was that dwarf guy who wanted us to go down into the mountains and the tunnels, remember? Or did
Oh
I
yeah.
did I black out for a couple of minutes and miss that one?
You
What's
might
in your
have looked
flask?
right over his head.
And they are short, easy to miss.
Did we talk about that?
No, we didn't. Dwally Greybelt, yeah. So, short answer on him is yeah. He said he was looking for allies to go to the tunnels underneath the Stone Crown Mountains. He is a dwarf from Baruch Ajik. He would give you some brief details here. He doesn't specify any costs. Essentially, this is he was looking for individuals to go with him on this route. So this was kind of like an opportunity if you guys chose to take upon this or not. But I believe you guys decided you wanted to do John Serpentwind's task here instead.
Could we go ahead?
I was gonna say, did he like give us more information about whereabouts he wants to go? Because if it's close by to the giant thing, we were thinking that maybe we could like make a whole trip of it, you know?
So the giant thing that you guys spoke with us, you believe, I'm going to bring everybody over to the region map real quick. Whoop, not there. All right, region map. Okay, so Usk, based on the information that you guys got from him, you believe Usk to be somewhere down in this area. So in Melavienne, near probably the border between Melavienne and Mountain's Edge. So he's down this way. As far as what Dwali would be explaining to you, as he says there, he wants to do these tunnels underneath the Stone Crown Mountains. That is kind of more in this vicinity. So probably maybe a day's journey away from the swamps that Usk is mentioning.
Is there a way that maybe we could let him know that we have an expedition planned within the next week or so, and that we would still like to consider this, and maybe we can meet back with him at the end of the month or something along those lines?
Yes, yep, he is around for a while, so he says he would be okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, did he talk about a split of like money or anything? Is it like everybody equal split kind of thing?
He did not specify, but he seems like a reasonable fellow, so yeah, you think that's something he'd be okay with?
All right, cool.
Hey Adam, before we forget, since we're probably winding down, I'm going to play my card.
Okay, feel free to do so. Actually, let me get you to a different screen to do that, because we don't have a play card in this spot.
Yeah, I was looking, I was like, hey, where to drop it?
Get you back to the throne room.
It said one player gets to get braces of defense. Yeah. Okay.
All right, you spend this card, and I think you're the only one with weariness.
Yeah, that's why I was waiting to use it till
Might
the
as
very
well.
end.
Right?
You know, it's just one of those things. It's like, yeah, whatever, right? You know.
Fair enough. So all this political talk in the council has got you reinvigorated, Tavard. Yes, reduce your weariness by 1.
Nice. Although we'll probably get a long rest, but heck, if you didn't get to play my red card last week, so I'll go ahead and play this purple
It happens. It happens. I don't worry about him too much. All right, so guys, trying to do this a little bit quickly, just to give us a really good end-off point here. Today, again, is the 21st. How many days do you want to wait before you go with Mr. Serpentwind to check out these ruins?
I don't know, no more than like 3, right, guys?
I
Well,
vote for one night, and then we go.
Yeah, I don't really care. I think I will add them just so you and I know, and we could talk offline when we're done, or text or something. But on Discord. But I will send an animal message before this next long rest to invite them, my family and my 5 or so people that you have in your mind, to come to the castle in Cariele and ask for Tannen.
Okay, and I will say that you would know that this essentially would be like abandoning your level 0 holding, which really doesn't do much for you anyway, but just want to make sure you're okay with that.
Yeah, no, there's no power there.
Fair enough. Okay, so you send that message off to them. All right. All right, guys. So today's the 21st, and I heard maybe a day. So how about we do it this way? You guys sleep through the night on the 21st. The 21st, you guys didn't really pay much attention because you were inside basically all day, but it was very heavy rain and moderate wind. You sleep through that night, wake up the next night, and that would give you guys a long rest. We'll apply that in a moment. This seems to be a pretty typical day. It's a bit colder than normal, but other than that, nothing unique or special with the weather. Do you guys decide to depart that day or wait another day?
Vin's got to do his auditioning, I guess you could say, for the new guy, and then he would be cool with letting him go. So, I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure that would only take a few hours, really. Vin would
Yes.
just,
So essentially, Lord Cannon
skirmish
brings
with him.
this guy before you. You do the vetting that you would like to do, and since you, the player, made the character, I'm pretty sure you approve the vetting.
Yeah.
Vote on that as
Vin does
council
it.
members.
No, Vin doesn't do it in front of anybody else. Vin does it like solo. So it'll be more of a surprise to everybody when he's introduced.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's look for any disagreement. You guys want to leave the next day? So this will be the 22nd of the month. Okay, hearing no disagreement then. A day passes by after all of this eventful work on the council, the petitions, that sort of thing, with these thoughts rumbling through your head still, knowing that there's a lot of things still to come to fruition. You guys leave early the next morning and you travel across country. You travel through your province here and find yourself following Mr. Serpentwind. While doing so, John is giving you guys a few little odd tidbits here and there. You get the pretty strong impression he's kind of like a academic sort. So he mentions a lot of documents and things and stuff that he has read. You guys eventually make your way over to this vicinity about here. Or I'm sorry, not there. About this vicinity here-ish. So as far as distance goes, you guys have traveled about 6 hours or so to get to the northwestern part of Melivienne. You end up looking around this area, and you can see John constantly keeps referencing these different documents and so forth. During this time, you have gone on this trip with your newly appointed companion that Vin has sent in his stead. And just to make it easier, I'm going to say that after about an hour or so of searching, you guys finally find this entrance to this ruins, which turns out there's like kind of a large pond and there's a bit of an overhang. And when you start scanning this area, you realize the entrance to the ruins is essentially right across the pond at like the ground level here. So you kind of break out some ropes, and John's brought a bunch of this kind of stuff, and climb down the side, get your ropes back, and eventually find yourself in this area.
I have a quick question about the business that we left back at the castle.
Sure.
Did we provide instructions for when the snake lady returns to get any information she can out of the paladin that tried to kill me, or are
If
we
you
just...
wish to say you did that and everybody's in agreement, then yes, absolutely.
I'm just concerned we might not be back before that happens.
Dean's there though. I mean, not Dean. Vin's there.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Ben's there also to accept my family as he arrives as well.
Cool. Just checking. Thanks.
All right, so during this one day of travel, your new companion here sent in Vin's stead. Dylan, go ahead and describe to us what the new companion looks like and anything that he is wearing or anything that the team would notice after spending about a day of travel with him.
Okay. I was not ready. Hang on, let me pull up his thing. Give me 1 second.
And if it's easier for you to do this next week, we can. I just thought that might be a good opportunity to give you that little last minute impression.
No. I have it all taken care of. Well, he would introduce himself. His name is Jason Renegon. He is part of a noble family here in Cariele. They're the Renegon family. His dad is a master woods worker, I guess you could say, and His mother is a priestess of oh shoot, what's the his mother is a priestess. We'll just go with that. And he himself, he's wearing his hair. First of all, is probably the first thing you notice. It's like cerulean, like seawater blue, and so are his eyes. Like they match distinctly. And I would say anybody that's knowledgeable about bloodlines at all would understand that this is a what's called a blood mark. It's not like he dyes his hair or his eyes or anything like that. That this is a direct representation of him being a scion. And Vin wouldn't let you guys know that. Like, you know, he's a respected noble. He's well known, but he's, you know, his powers are a bit weird. He himself, he doesn't carry much. He is not heavily armored in any way. All he really has on him is, you can see there's a component pouch on his side, and he walks with a staff. The staff is like it's like a piece of driftwood almost. It's pretty long, and the top of it, it has carving into it that looks very similar to what you would see on the front of a ship, like the head of a ship, you know, like the mermaids and the fairies and whatnot. And dangling from it is just a pair of 2 bells that don't chime. But yeah, that's him.
All right, so as you guys spend that 6 hours or so traveling with this new companion, obviously you have, you know, shared some courtesies, that sort of thing. I imagine discussed a little bit here and there about the goal of this, the intent. We will obviously get into those details more next week. But as you find yourself at this foot of this area, you can see that there's a lot of rocks and things that have tumbled down from above. And remember, you came from above. Think of like yourselves coming from this direction as you guys threw ropes up like the cliff over here, climbed down this way, had to actually get your feet wet to move through this area, as the face of the cliff is still even this direction. So you come around here, you see a bunch of strewn rocks all about. You notice kind of like the edifice here of what looks to be ruins, and you see thick vines that seem to be covering this whole area. You can see that there is gaps in the vines here and there, but as you face this large area, you realize what is in store for you as you guys venture forward. So I wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek of what you're facing, and this is where we will pick up next week with more of a action adventure session for our team. So great session, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed it. A lot more council type stuff, and we will pick up again next week and continue the adventure from there.
Right on. Good job, guys. See you.
All right,
Cool.
folks. Have a good week. See you.
Bye,
See ya.
y'all.